Hello and welcome to Git Radio episode number 5. I'm joined tonight by my sidekick, Paul.
How's it going, everyone? Everyone's having a good time, wherever you are.
And we're also joined on this episode by Ed, Scottish Knight, and Andy Cowan, who is filmed on the Night Age forums. If you guys want to say hi.
Hi, everyone. Nice to be back again.
Hi, everybody. It's good to be on. First time ever live on air. Awesome.
Andy is a dwarf player, so we might not get him back depending on how this goes. So this episode we are going to be talking about Midlands, the team tournament, which Andy, myself and Ed attended a couple of weeks ago. We're going to give you a run through of our games. We'll talk a bit about the tournament overall, about how we did, and our thoughts about just the whole experience and the different armies we played and different mentalities that we came across. And then that's really going to be it for this episode, because I think it's going to take a little bit of time to get through all our games. We couldn't, unfortunately, be joined by our fourth and final teammate, Michael, because his internet connection is apparently dated from the 1940s. So I'm going to do my best to fill in the gaps, because he took Ed's Orc and Goblin army, and there were some key highlights from Michael's games which we really should mention. But basically, I'm going to hand over to Paul, who's going to direct us through.
Yeah. So because we've all been on, apart from Andy, we thought we'd give Andy an opportunity just to kind of introduce himself and to kind of talk about your kind of gaming history and where you're coming from.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So I play dwarves mainly. Yeah, sorry guys. Sorry to let you down. Also tried my hand at Warriors of the Dark Gods, and I haven't played maybe 6-7 games with them. Can totally appreciate that they're quite a lot harder to use well than the dwarves. Dwarves, I think.
Is that true, Paul?
It's a little bit easy. Well, what else? Got access to a few other armies that I will get around to playing in the 9th Age eventually. Played most of them 8th edition here and there. Started playing games, miniature war games, when I was about 9 with Warhammer 4th edition box set. Actually, even a little bit before that with random Hero Quest minis made into armies of orcs and goblins and undead. But yeah, been playing for quite a long time, and this is definitely the best set of rules for a miniature war game I've ever played.
Yeah. And Andy, you're also the head of a gaming clan, aren't you? You've got your 2 sons involved and your wife involved.
Oh yeah. My missus plays orcs and goblins. Older son's got some Skaven, which occasionally get used as vermin swarm. My younger boy, he's a bit wee to really play, but he's got some cool dinosaurs and a lizard man. Sorry, an agent's army.
In a couple of years.
Oh yeah, definitely. I was considering getting them some Scottish Wildlings T-shirts, but they grow so quick that maybe later, maybe eventually. But yeah, it's good. We still play 8th edition in the house, so lots of fun.
Cool. Just before we get kind of into the nitty-gritty of the games and stuff, do people want to just briefly give a kind of short summary of their lists and what the thinking was behind them? Andy, do you want to kick us off with this?
Sure. This could get confusing. Which Andy are you talking to?
Yeah, well, what we'll do, I'll say Andrew for yourself, and I'll say Andy for Andy.
There we go. Awesome.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Andy.
Right, I will do. I'm going to see if I can find a copy of my list kicking about somewhere. I should know it, just off by heart, but just in case I forget something. No, don't see one. So, let's think. So a king on throne, defensive build, but with a great weapon. So 1 up, bluffers, 4 up, all the throne goodies. Let's think, who else? BSB, 1 up, 4 up. Oh, shield wall plus 1 extra ward. Cold stone as well. Runesmith with 3 battle runes and a rune of devouring, and the rune of devouring is definitely a staple of my list from now on. I might mention that a wee bit later, exactly how cool that is. But who else we've got in there? No Dragon Seeker in this list. Not pushy enough for that, just nice and defensive. And an engineer to sit with the war machines. Basic stuff, just 1 extra pip of armour save for him. What else we got in there? Big block of greybeards, who didn't do terribly well, but I do like them. Big block of greybeards. Some shooters, 1 unit of 18 crossbow guys with shields and a flaming banner. Big block of deep watch, 22 models, I think, with the runic standard of shielding that gives a 6-inch bubble of 5 upward against shooting. 1 vengeance seeker, pair of skirmishing copters, cannon, and a runed catapult.
Oh,
That's
the dwarf stuff.
Yeah, all that dwarf stuff, totally.
What about yourself, Ed? What did you bring?
So I'm not sure if thought was what went into my list selection, as it was basically a decision of, will I go sensible and defensive, or will I just go crazy aggressive? And the crazy one won. So it was a fully mounted KOE list with every flavour of knights possible. I thought I'd use this as a last chance to test them all out before starting to build for 2.0 lists. So I brought scouting, vanguarding hedge knights with their great weapons. I brought Knights of the Realm. I brought 2 smaller units of aspirants. I brought a big unit of Grail knights. And then I brought 3 characters, all of whom were tooled up for combat in different ways. 2 with rerollable 1-up armor saves. 1 with a 2-up armor and a 5-up or 4-up ward. 1 was tooled up to charge and blow things up. 1 was tooled to fight in challenges. And 1 was tooled to basically stick around for as long as possible against tough things. And then 2 units of yeomen to hopefully stop the nasty things from hitting me when I don't want them to.
What about you, Andrew?
My army. I brought my lovely Empire. And basically I just took the list that I've been playing recently, which has kind of just become my staple, and which up until that weekend had a very good record and was very hard to beat. I had a Prelate General with a 1-up rerollable great weapon. Had a BSB Marshal with Ether Icon and Great Tactician. Had another Prelate on a horse with a Lance Shield. So basically he's got 1-up armor and a Lance. And then I had a big block of spears, 2 support blocks of halberds, a couple of units of skirmish and pistols, a unit of 9 knightly orders with Stalker standard, so basically just soar through terrain, and who I'm not talking to, and you'll find out why in a wee minute. I had a unit of 3 chickens, which, spoiler, they were the MVPs of the weekend, if I had to choose an MVP, because there wasn't really many memorable performances from my life. It would probably be the chickens. Had an arcane engine, steam tank, double mortar, and 1 unit of 5 Rider with heavy armor and double pistol.
Awesome. And obviously Michael, not being here, will just do a quick wee run through. I've got his list in front of me. He was bringing Ed's Orcs and Goblins. So he had, for his general, an Iron Orc Warlord on Chariot with the Bluffer's Helm and a rerollable armor save. He had a Goblin Chief BSB with the Sapling Bow. He had a Orc Shaman with Pyromancy on a Wyvern, 3 blocks of Goblins and Bows, some Nasher Dashers, a couple of Wrecking Teams, some Grotlings, some Common Orc mounted Ed Bashers, a couple of Scrap Wagons, 2 Splatters, a Scooter, and the Spider. So he had tons on his list.
Ed, how true is the statement that you were using Michael as a guinea pig for the GT final?
It's somewhat true.
Okay.
I'd already tested this list out in different forms, so I know it works.
It's a very good list.
It's a challenge, and to be honest, the Wyvern Shaman was a bit of fun. It probably wasn't the most competitive choice, so I've removed it from my list. But yeah, I mean, Michael wanted to do something different. He couldn't bring Empire at the same time as Andrew brought Empire, so
probably was better taking his Empire actually, because.
So yeah, this was a chance for him to play something different, and hopefully, I think he enjoyed it, which was good.
That's the main thing.
Yeah, no, well, he's gone off and bought shed loads of Orcs and Goblins now, so.
Yeah.
As is the correct way.
Evil propaganda.
So, did you guys kind of coordinate your list building beforehand, or did you just say, kind of, fuck it, just bring whatever?
Yeah, very limited.
I think because we had Siege, like, basically when we had Siege, so Siege was on the Saturday, and lists had to be submitted for Midlands on the Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't really have much time to totally reevaluate or combine to make like team lists, if that makes sense. So Andy kindly offered to play Defensive Dwarves, which is kind of a staple of teams. My Empire list did pretty well at Siege, so I was like, I'll just take that. I dropped the cannon and took another mortar to be a kind of anti-horde threat was the idea. And then Ed, you just kind of wanted to do the knights, so we kind of said, do you want to do monster hunting, I think?
Yeah, basically, yeah. Monsters and MSU.
Yeah, and Michael was just like all the random shit in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So that's in itself is a good option to have in a team.
Cool. So when the lists came out, I know you guys had some time to kind of sit through and talk through them. What were your kind of expectations going into the tournament, just in terms of what you knew you were going to be up against? Did you feel quite confident, or...?
You're a bastard, Paul.
No, we took one look at all the numerous zombie dragon lists and thought, should have brought flaming cannons.
Yeah.
How many of them were there? Just out of curiosity.
5 or 6, I think.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So there was a good chance one of you was going to run into at least one of them.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of our prep, because we drove down on the Friday, I actually think that was a really good way to do it. We drove down Friday morning, arrived a bit earlier, and we got some dinner, and then chatted, basically. And our game plan was that, I think it was just like, Ed will take the zombie dragons and try and...
Actually, no.
no, it was Michael, wasn't it?
Part of it was Michael because he had pyromancy.
That's right.
And because if he got flaming swords off on the catapults, then they'd be hitting on 5s at short range, but they'd be wounding on rerollable, on 3s, not rerollable, but 3s, then cut through the regen. So that was the vague plan.
But none of us really had a good answer to it.
Yeah.
And I actually think the zombie dragons misguided us a wee bit, because I think we probably worried too much about them. But
Okay, cool. So just getting into game 1 then, you guys had grudged the Vil Renegades. How did that pairing process go, and did you get the matchups you wanted? How did that all go down?
I think it actually went down okay. Who did we put down first? I think we put myself down first. Yeah, we did. Basically, I was the captain of the coach, and what I ended up doing for a lot of these games was just I think 2 or 3 of the games, I put myself down first, and it was purely because my list is quite flexible, or I thought it was quite flexible, and I thought that it could either just play very defensively or kind of be able to shift depending on what I played against. So we put myself down first, and the Vale guys had Rob, who was bringing Highborn Elves, Chris, who was bringing Kingdom of Ectane, Andrew, who was bringing Ogre Cans, and Ollie, who was bringing Infernal Dwarfs. So I think our game plan before it was to... Ed, you wanted Andrew.
Yep.
Because he had Juicy Monsters. Andy, did you actually have like an ideal... Because you had just like... You weren't really particularly bothered about playing any of them, were you? You were kind of alright.
As long as I avoided the ogres. They had potential for Wrath of God, which doesn't go well with my list that sits very compact in one place. Doesn't spread out at all. So the Thaumaturgy was a problem, so I wanted to avoid that. So that was fine. I avoided that. I would have preferred, I think, the High Elf list would have probably been the optimum one, because that was quite shooty, and I was light arm shooting.
Yeah.
So I was well set up to deal with that. High toughness, good armor, the 5-up ward against shooting that covers pretty much the whole army. So well set up to deal with high elves. Kingdom of Ectane, not so much, but still just about managed to pull off a small win there.
So we put myself down first, and they put down Rob? Was it the Highborn Elves they put down? God, it's been too long.
Probably doesn't matter too much.
Yeah, doesn't matter. Basically, the matchups were I played Ollie's Infernal Dwarfs, Ed, you played Andrew's Ogres, Andy, you played Chris's Kingdom of Ectane, and Michael took on Rob's Highborn Elves. So I think across the board we were actually okay with the matchups.
Okay.
I was okay about playing Ollie Ed wanted the ogres. Andy was okay about playing Ectane. It was just really Michael. Michael wasn't happy about playing the elves because he just thought there was too much shooting. But yeah, so that was it going into the first round.
Okay, and just out of curiosity, this was a 4-man team. Obviously, you guys had just been participated in the 3-man team tournament. When it came to the pairings, did you find it more difficult, or was it easier to try and get the kind of matchups that you wanted with that extra person in the team?
The thing was with the pairing system, you had 2 points of control because you were choosing who you got in one of your matchups, and the remaining person got paired up against your other person. So basically you chose 2 matchups, your opponent chose 2 matchups. So I think it was a little bit more predictable than Siege, where you chose one, your opponent chose one, and one was completely random.
Mm. Okay. Yeah, it's hard to say. I think, like Ed says, because of the 2 control points that you had over the pairings, you could influence it. There was a lot of times, like, where we'd made up a matrix, and there was a few teams where we had a lot of ambers across the board, and that makes pairings harder because you don't necessarily have like 2 matchups that you really want, and when you're pairing on the basis of ambers, that's when things can go wrong. But yeah, I think Siege was definitely, I found Siege's pairings were easier because normally you had one pairing that was good and then the other 2 were like meh.
Okay, that's interesting. So do you want to just kind of go through a brief summary of how your first games actually went? Ed, do you want to start with your game?
Bad. So moving on. This is the worst tournament, the worst game of the tournament for me. So it's a good way to start. Ogres. I wanted the matchup. I thought I could do fairly well with it, and I think the theory that I had was actually fine, but in practice it was a little bit difficult. I kept his rock orcs over to one side. I chaffed them up, but he ended up making a 16-inch charge with a unit of bruisers, which went into my general, and then overran into my Grail Knights and basically just crumbled the whole army. So I let that charge go, thinking that his chances of making it were small, but he had no risk in making it. I probably could have fled the general. I could have played that more conservatively, but I sort of played the odds, and I thought, 16-inch, he's not going to make that. I'm okay, and once he doesn't make that, I've got good charges set up, and it just didn't work that way. So by the end of the game, I had my BSB and one of my characters left, and I'd taken 1,400 points off of him. So it was a 5-15. It was a 15-5 to him, but he claimed the secondary without any difficulty. So it was a pretty hefty loss, that one.
So it was really just the long charge that undid you there?
Yeah, I mean, there were various things that I could have done better, but that crippled my whole army. And that was the problem with the army, was that it was very brittle if it got the wrong circumstances.
I guess it's hard, Sorry, Paul, you go.
No, I was just going to say, he's got 2 Rocks in his list, he's got 2 units of 3 Tuskers, and he's got the Yetis, so he's quite quick anyway.
Yeah, he was, and the Yetis caused all sorts of problems. They're a really good unit, actually. So I took a couple of shots at the Yetis early on to get rid of some of them, but got pulled out of position and had to retreat after that. I took one of his Tuskers, but it wasn't a scoring unit, sadly. We were playing Capture the Flags. Right. So by the end of it, I just hadn't nearly done enough to his army, and he just crippled mine. So, he was totally right. He took the long charges because there was no loss to him for doing it, and it worked for him. So, yeah, I can't really complain at that.
Okay, just how it goes, I suppose. Sometimes not much you can do about it. It's just dice, just getting that extra pip of luck.
I think if he'd failed that as well, like he was going to trundle forward closer to you, and anything that gets you closer to an Ectane cavalry charge is not a good idea. So
it's not good, but that wasn't the charge that I would have taken anyway. Okay. So it was, that was 10 bruisers, I think, at that point. There's no point me putting knights into that because they'll do a little bit of damage, then they'll evaporate. So
okay, fair enough.
What about you, Andy? How did your game 1 go?
So I was up against Ollie's
Inferno. Andy.
Remember the system, Andrew. You're Andrew.
Oh, fuck. Sorry, Andy. Go ahead.
No problem. Cheers, man. So, first game was going okay for most of it. I mean, Kings of Echtane is not an army that I've had a lot of success against, because I've only ever played Ed before and have never won against Kingdom of Echtane, so wasn't really feeling it going into that particular match. I thought I was going to get my butt kicked again, but it was going okay. My opponent was clearly having some jitters, just like I think most people do at the start of any tournament. Theirs hadn't quite settled yet, so took us quite a while to get started explaining what each other's units did, things like that. And I think we both made a couple of errors in terms of placement, deployment, that kind of thing. However, I was in a good position toward the end of the battle. I'd taken out one of his scoring units because he'd gone after my war machines. I just turned my deep watch right around, charged the unit straight off the table. That was easy enough. That was a big unit of Grails along with his damsel. So it got me quite a lot of points, and I thought at that point, that's great, turn my guys back around, sit pretty. However, I had mispositioned my Greybeards, and they took a flank charge that I hadn't seen was possible. They lost the combat, a rerollable 6 to stick. If they had stuck on that rerollable 6, I would have won that. What would have been 16-4, but they broke, bounced through a whole bunch of units, went off the table. So, drew the objective, lost the big block of Greybeards. So close, but no cigar on that one. So it finished 11-9, which was alright. It was, it's a small win, and it's what that list was designed to do. It's win or lose small, or draw, preferably.
Okay, cool. So again, it was just that one little bit of extra luck. If you had held, maybe it just would have gone that little bit differently in the end.
Totally, yeah. And I think that's, it's been repeated a couple of times throughout the tournament that, hinging on something that's quite manageable, but you just need a wee bit of luck in a certain role, and that turns the tide of the game. But, yeah, so it was certainly an enjoyable match, and my opponent was a very nice individual.
Cool, that's always good. I see he had druidism, so he was regrown shit as well, presumably.
Well, yeah, that's a good
or
story.
Was he?
His magic phase at the start of the game. I think he had first turn, his first magic phase anyway. He had a lot of power dice, but he was too far away to do anything with them. So he did one buff that was fine, didn't make any difference, let it through. And then he thought, right, okay, I'll get this Oaken Throne off, and that'll be it, potentially the rest of the game, unless, I waste dice to spell on it. This is something that we talked about beforehand. Ed had suggested using, some way of dealing with these big spells. In fact, the conversation came up because I was worried about the Wrath of Gods being so devastating to my list. Is there something I can do about it? Maybe a dispel scroll or rune that does the same thing. It occurred to me that a rune of devouring would do even better. So it eats the spell, it goes off once, and then it can no longer be used. And Ed suggested druidism, use it on Oaken Throne. So I was waiting for him to cast the spell.
Absolute genius.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was waiting for him to cast the spell. He had no reason to cast it. He wasn't going to get any benefit from it in that turn, but it does remain in play. And as soon as he'd rolled the dice, I was like, right, it's gone. And he knew in that second he'd made a mistake. It's like, you were waiting for me to do that, you bastard. So I apologise. I did explain it. If it wasn't the tournament, I would have said, by the way, I'm going to do this. Don't do it. I've been waiting for that opportunity. So no, he wasn't regrowing very much at all.
Good.
His magic didn't swing the battle in any way.
Okay, that's good. I hate druidism. It's an amazing lore, but playing against it is so infuriating when they can regrow stuff that has no business coming back.
I agree with that completely.
That tactic was courtesy of a conversation that I had with Henrik, where he was looking at what he could devour with his rune, and we basically worked out that Oaken Throne was the ideal target, and we couldn't find anything in the rules that said it had to be a non-trait spell. So suddenly that option looked very inviting.
I just think that's so good. It's so clever.
What about you, Andrew? Do you want to take us through your game one?
Yeah, so it's definitely me this time. I'm not fucking it up.
No, it's all you.
Awesome. So I was up against Ollie and his Inferno Dwarves. And during the pairing process, when Ollie and I got drawn, Ollie looked quite happy about it. And I had Ollie down as an amber, and I was like, really, it could go either way. And he seemed really happy about it, and I was like, I fucked up here. And we were talking a bit beforehand, and he said that he wanted the matchup because he knows the Empire book pretty well. And I was like, okay, so I haven't really fucked up. And Ollie had Infernal Dwarves, and he had a big unit of Immortals with all his characters in it. Kadim Titan, some of the flying fiery guys, what are they called?
Incarnates.
Incarnates, thanks Ed. And a couple of the war machines and stuff like that. But it's really the hitting force is the Titan and the Incarnates. So when we were deploying, I tried to trick him into thinking that I was going to go into one corner, and I dropped my chickens and knights on one side, and he dropped his Immortals across from them. And then I just dropped everything and dropped all my infantry in the opposite corner. My plan was that I don't really want to fight the Immortals, because he's probably just going to outslug me, because they're bodyguard. So I was going to move up with the cavalry and just basically run across the board and take the Titan out, take the Incarnates out if I can, and avoid the Immortals, because it's just not worth the risk of getting involved with them. That was the plan anyway. And it was breakthrough as well, so the infantry were going to, hopefully I was going to do some damage to the Titan, which was deployed opposite the infantry, and then just march up in his objective with the infantry and take the secondary. However, so he had his Immortals across from a cav, and beside his his Immortals was a fucking Goblin Chief on a wolf. And this little fucker cost something like 130 points, but it essentially won Ollie the game. Because I did what I was going to do. I moved the cav round the knights, and there was a hill as well, so it was perfect. So he couldn't see me, so I was just going to run. And by the time he either got over the hill or around it, I was going to be too far out of the way. It was only really the Incarnates that could potentially catch them. So it was all going well, but he moved his Goblin Chief up to within 6 of the knights. So I had to march test, and I failed the march test on an 8 leadership roll. I was too far away, obviously, because the infantry and the PSB in general were with the infantry. So I didn't have a reroll, and it essentially meant that my knights were fucked, because they were stuck behind this hill. The Immortals were going round one side, and the Incarnates were going round the other, and there was no way I could move whereby I could get away from them, because I didn't have enough movement. If I hadn't failed the march test, I would have been able to get away, and the knights would have gone off and probably picked a fight with the Titan. But alas, they were stuck, and basically what happened was the shooting wasn't effective, which is a theme throughout, and his Incarnates and the Immortals ended up getting into the knights and just evaporated them, essentially. The chickens managed to get round, and they picked up some points, killing some goblins, and then went up into the deployment zone, I think. So sorry, yeah, because the infantry were left unsupported, the Titan just kind of moseyed his way up. I tried to chap him up as best I could, but it got to the stage where I sacrificed one of the support units to hold him up, and the rest of the infantry kind of just ran away round him. And because he'd got the knights, and I hadn't really managed to get much points back, and he actually got the secondary in the end as well, because he got his Immortals and his a little unit of the Taurox in the deployment zone. He ended up getting 16, and I got 4, so it was a 13-7, but then he got the secondary. Pretty disappointing for a first game, and we were talking about it afterwards, and you know, if the Knights hadn't failed that March test, it would have been a different game, because I could have chosen my targets with the Knights.
Yeah.
And taken points.
And was that the first time you had played Infernal Dwarves?
It was actually, yeah. I knew all of them, and I've read the book quite a lot, mainly because we had Matt coming up to Siege, so I'd never played them before, so I thought I'd better read the book. So I was quite comfortable with the army because I knew what everything did, but yeah, it was just a bit of a pain losing the Knights, because it's 900 points, over 900 points actually for the Knights, yeah. And to lose them without doing any damage whatsoever is pretty frustrating.
Yep, I can attest to that. Getting models volley gunned off the table before they do anything, that's pretty heartbreaking as well.
Ha ha ha! Yeah, I mean, Ollie was really fun to play against him. We had a good laugh when we were playing, but I mean, my dice weren't particularly hot that game either. Like, my shooting was just not doing anything. I couldn't really use my magic because once the Knights got fucked, the infantry can't go against Incarnates or the Titan, so there wasn't much point in getting them involved. The Steam Tank kind of moseyed about for a wee while. He took out one of the war machines and basically just tried to cause havoc. I did actually try and get him into the Titan, but the Titan got away. I don't think he would win that, but at least he'd hold him up. But yeah, so it was really just a bit of frustration at failing that March test.
Did you ever prelate in that unit as well?
In the Knight?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, okay. But your general was a prelate as well?
Yeah, so the general was the prelate on foot. And
yeah.
I also had a mounted prelate in the Knights, because basically, if everything goes to plan, he goes in there, he gives them hatred, he gives them the reroll, potentially the flame attacks or the ward as well, and they should evaporate most things they hit.
No, I was just thinking you had lost your magic as well when that happened, but you still had access to some.
Still had one, and this was a big thing as well that I kind of came to realise over the weekend, that when you're going up against, there was a lot of magic at the tournament. When you're going up against a lot of magic, the bounce spells don't really cut it, even with two of them. And I had the altar as well, but I did feel like my magic wasn't being particularly effective the way I used it.
Totally right there. A Wizard Master with the book basically means bound magic might as well not even be there.
Yeah.
Because you're +4 to the spell makes it really, really hard to get anything through. Can totally attest to that difficulty of getting bound spells off when you're up against heavy magic users.
Yeah, and because my army relies so much on getting those buffs and those synergies, when you don't have that, you're just stuck with toughness 3, strength 2 guys who will just get munched by everything. So that was an oversight on my behalf, and I think obviously we don't have much of 1.3 left, but I've got, obviously we've got a meet coming up next week, and I'm going to bring some magic, because it's something that I've never really been interested in, because I really like the prelates, but I think maybe it's something I'm going to have to look into, especially going into 2.0.
Cool. And how did Michael get on in his game 1?
Michael's game was hilarious. So Michael was playing next to me, and he was not happy about playing elves. And he kept telling me, I'm going to lose big, just, be nice to me. And I'm like, no, it's cool. And apparently the first couple turns it was going really bad. He was just getting shot to shit. And he had called me over to ask me something at one point, and he basically had his Gargantula looking at a unit of Lion Guard. And he was like, do I go in? His Gargantula maybe taking a couple of wounds. And he said, if I go in and I bust them, then I can get in behind them, the rest of his stuff. But if I go in, hit them, and I don't kill them, then I'm basically screwed. I said to him, well, I don't know if you've got nothing to lose by not doing it, because the way he was, there was another unit that was going to get the spider anyway. Right. So he ended up going for it. He punked the Lion Guard who did fuck all back to him. And then, I think, was it a pump wagon? Something went into the Lion Chariot General and killed him.
It was Shaman on the Wyvern.
Shaman on the Wyvern, that's right. He got the super surge off.
Yeah.
Just killed this high elf general in a chariot. And then all of a sudden the high elf army just started to disintegrate around him. So it went from looking really, really bad to looking really, really good really, really quickly. And Michael ended up getting a 16-4 out of that. So he went from very depressed at the start of the game to absolutely ecstatic at the end of it. And he was like, right, okay, round 2, let's go.
Oh, well, that's good. So the team got some luck.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think things went Michael's way, definitely, in that game.
How did you, as the team captain, how did you kind of use your timeouts and stuff for the tournament? Just like you kind of mentioned a couple of times, you using them. Was that something that was quite on your mind? How people were getting on?
Because actually, in the map, this is something I didn't quite realise. I just kind of took it as a given. But in the pack, they didn't actually allocate any timeout times.
Oh, they didn't?
No. I think because I was so preoccupied with Siege before it, and we'd kind of talked a lot about that there should be timeout times and stuff like that. But, a lot of the time, it was just casual. People were asking the captain or the player next to them, a quick question, or there was times where we were playing guys and they were like, could we just have a minute? And, as long as
that's cool.
both sides are fine with that, that's totally cool.
Yeah.
And, the Vale boys were the same, because I said, would you mind if we had a quick captain talk? And they were like, no, that's fine, we'll do the same. It was, there wasn't the same formality as there was at Siege, but it was fine.
Okay, that's good. Teams having that same kind of philosophy on it. And no one kind of awkward or anything, that's good.
That's something we should say. I think all the teams we played were really good guys. I personally didn't have a bad opponent all weekend. I thoroughly enjoyed all the games.
Awesome. So, I think I'm right in saying that you guys came out of game 1 with 33 points?
Fuck all, yeah, basically.
Well, I mean, you say fuck all. That's more than some of the other teams have picked up.
We weren't capped, so
You didn't have that.
That's a rarity for the weekend, by the way.
Okay.
We were only capped once, I think, weren't we?
I don't know.
In fact, yeah, I'm pretty sure we were only capped on game 2. The rest of the games were fine, I think.
Yeah? Okay.
Could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's how.
No, we'll
Because
go
I'm
with
sure
that.
there's a
That
couple.
sounds good. We'll go with that.
I think you were capped in the sense that you... Well, yeah, we'll get to the score. Get to that game 2.
Stay tuned.
Yeah. Okay, so going into game 2, what was the team match? How were you guys feeling?
Really good, because we've done not very well. Therefore, we're going to be up against an easy opponent in the next round.
So we
However, when we saw who our opponents were going to be, we thought, maybe not.
All right. Okay. So who were your opponents going into game 2 then?
So we played the Old Boys Club, which were Tanka, Leggy, Amit, and Raf. And the reason you'll know all those names if you're listening, or you might know all those names, is because those guys are all England ETC players and are very experienced tournament players who were basically using the weekend. They were kind of just approaching it a bit more cash, I think. And they did random pairings all weekend, which is admirable. So there was kind of like mind games going on because you were approaching them and they were doing all this random shit and you were like, we should get something out of this. But then you realise, actually, they're all very good players. So it was a painful awakening.
So, how did the pairings go down for game 2?
So for game 2, the Old Boys had a Vampire Dragon list. And I think, Ed, you had the choice, didn't you, in this one?
I think I took one for the team, was
Yeah.
the theme behind that one.
Yeah, so Ed very kindly took the bus to the face and said, I'll have a go at the Zombie Dragon. I got a really good matchup. Well, I thought it was a really good matchup, and I got Tanka, who was bringing his Dread Elves, and it was very MSU, and I was okay with that. Andy, you got Amit, is that right, with his Kingdom Out team?
That was Ralph, wasn't it?
Yeah, I played Raf's Demons.
Oh,
Lost
sorry,
Demons.
yeah, you did.
So, Ed, do you want to talk about your game 2?
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed my game. Despite going into it, I didn't know much about Leggy. I kind of heard mostly about his experience and his stature before after the fact. So I probably was less intimidated than I might have been otherwise.
Dare I ask why he's called Leggy?
I have no idea. I can't tell you that, I'm afraid.
He is a leg fetish, I imagine. Maybe.
So yeah, I mean, I kind of went in not expecting to win the game, but I thought maybe I can dance around. Vampires don't have the most mobile army. Everything I've got is movement 8. And I was able to use the terrain to my advantage. I picked the side. I put myself on the side where there were lots of impassable and buildings and basically as much as possible to block the way for his army. So he brought his army forward. I managed to isolate his Winged Reapers and take them out. And once they were gone, then his dragon got stuck in and took one of my characters and hit my Grail Knights. I managed to just about recover after that, kind of forced his dragon back. My Grail Knights didn't rally, which cost me a win in the end. We shared the secondary, and I put a charge in on his zombie dragon in the last turn with 2 characters, my BSB and my general. And I did 3d3 wounds, which turned into 3 wounds, and his zombie dragon was left on 1 wound at the end of that combat. So it was a big risk. I took it. It got me a 10-10 in the end, but it was frustratingly close to killing that zombie dragon and probably maybe going to 12 or 13 win. So it was a good game, though. I really enjoyed it.
Good. And had you had much experience playing the vampires?
I actually played Chris Mintz's Zombie Dragon list online, which inspired all of the
yeah, all of them.
all of the lists in the Shifting Sands tournament. So I actually had an experience of playing against this list. I almost killed his dragon in that game as well. So I knew that they were vulnerable if you could hit them with the right things. But yeah, it was always going to be a challenge to get a guarantee. I was never going to get a guaranteed kill. It was always going to be a risk.
What about you, Andy? Your game against Raph, how did that go?
So I played against the fastest list
In the world.
in the world. Doesn't get any faster than this. All the units move sideways as quickly as they move forwards. That's absolutely true. It's scary. So I deployed in the corner, hoping to shoot his Courtesan of Lust. In fact, this was my preferred matchup. Of the four, I figured there's a big, nasty demon worth a quarter of the points of the list. If I can get a couple of lucky shots, catapult, cannon, doesn't matter, the wound on twos, and that would be great. So he deployed his demon Courtesan of Lust 60 inches away from my war machines and kept it there for the entire game. So I didn't get a single shot off. But that's cool. And I could aim a few shots at some of the scoring units. So this was flags. So I wanted to take out at least one scoring unit. So the catapult would still, do a few wounds during the game. He did find it kind of difficult to get past the brick in the corner. That was causing them some problems, which gave me a bit of heart because, guy was a very good player. So it, gave me a bit of confidence, the fact that he was struggling to actually get past my units. I was, manoeuvring them quite well, keeping everything at bay, as it were. But once his scoring units, the sirens, took a bit of damage from the catapults, they started to move toward the board edge, toward the corner of the board as well. And so he ended the game with roughly half his army in the opposite corner to my army, out of range of everything that I've got.
Right, okay.
And I was on course to get either a draw or just a very small loss, despite my opponent playing with only half his army, until I made one mistake and didn't spot a sort of 20-odd inch charge, not the sort of thing you often look for, but most of his army were made up of, I think, fiends. Or
Claude fiends?
Yeah, Claude fiends. Lots of fairly small units of Claude fiends, of the mounted Lust, fast cav, or the sirens. So they all move. You can just go from one end of the table to the other in a couple of turns. And he saw one opening, took it, again got a wee bit of luck in terms of, no, in fact, there wasn't any luck in that. They auto broke my greybeards once again. They deployed wide, so they'd gone from a brick to a long line, sort of two deep with a third rank of maybe 4 or 5, to stop any of these quick units getting past into my war machines. But like I say, I didn't see this flank charge, and once they get into the flank, they won the combat by 9 and the guys ran off the board, and that was the 5-point swing. If I'd seen that, turned the unit a little bit, that would have been much, much closer. But it was still a very good game, and really sort of schooled in how to keep manoeuvring units in terms of their facing, keeping things out. So 15-5 it ended, and I didn't get tabled by a very good opponent, so I'm not unhappy with that.
That's always a plus. What about you, Andrew? How was your game 1? Game 2, rather.
I did get tabled by a very good opponent. So yeah, I played against Tanker, and he brought a very, very MSU Dread Elf list.
How did he fit all this on the table?
Did he fit it on the table?
Yeah, because I'm looking at it and I'm like, holy shit, there's a lot of units here.
Yeah. He did fit it on the table. The drops were quite funny, because I was kind of wanting to... The only thing that I'm really scared of in that list are the Executioners, because a lot of my stuff, like my heavy hitters, rely on their armour, and the Executioners with the lethal strike and just generally being little bastards will eat armour. So I didn't really want to get involved with them, but I quickly realised they were going to be his last drops, because he was dropping like 10 Corsairs, 10 Corsairs, 10 Corsairs. I was like, oh, okay, fuck this. So the game started off, and I had my chickens on my writer in one side, and most of my other stuff in the other corner, basically. And the plan was, I'll shoot them, because I've got more shooting than him, I'll soften them up, and then I'll push. And I was looking for, to be painfully honest, I was looking for a big win here, because there wasn't really anything in the list that scared me. And playing against Monroe's Dread Elves quite a lot. The only thing that I really don't like in the Dread Elf book is Executioners and the Divine Altar. And little 10-man Executioner blocks aren't as scary as 20-man blocks, so I thought this will be fine. And he'd also put his mage in, actually in the table's corner in a 10-man Corsair unit. So, and he'd left this gap, that I could fit the chickens and the Reiter through. So I thought it's worth a punt going up and trying to take out his mage. And if I lose those 2 units, then I think I'll do okay elsewhere, so it won't really matter. So the Reiter flew through the gap and basically spent 3 turns trying to panic this bunker off the field, and he was passing the tests. The chickens kind of got stuck because executioners ran over to them, and eventually they got Kentucky Fried Chicken. The rest, like, my dice were actually pretty good this game, and I was doing a lot of damage for the shooting, and I think it gave me false confidence, because this was flagged as well, and I managed to mortar off 2 of his scoring, like, the flag units by turn 2. So I was thinking, right, this is going to go my way, and he was starting to suffer casualties from the pistol militia as well. So I made a mistake, and I pushed up with the infantry, and I swung the knights around to kind of get in on one side to support the infantry. A unit of fucking pistol militia got beaten up by some dark shades. Did they flee? Yeah, they fled, the fuckers. They fled and they ran through the knights, who, yet again, failed the leadership 8 roll and ran off the field without fighting anything.
Fucking hell.
Fucking hell. I wasn't even surprised actually. When it happened, I was like, of course that happened, that's fine. So that kind of made me think, right, I really need to push now to get my points back. And I basically just got outplayed. Like, hats off to Tanka. He knew exactly what to do. And I pushed up. The infantry hit the tower guard, who basically just stood the infantry at a standstill, and he managed to get Corsairs round. Because everything's MSU, it was very quick and mobile. He managed to get everything round, and he basically just crumpled all the infantry. And I didn't have much left by the end of the game. I think I only had like a mortar left.
Jeez.
Everything else was gone. And that was just testament to me thinking the matchup was good and not taking into account how good the player was. And I pushed when I shouldn't have. I mean, Tanka was really good to play against. It was good fun. But at the end of that game, I just felt like I'd made a big mistake and I just underestimated the list and the player. Alas. So that was a 20-0 to Tanka.
Sucks.
It does, but that was a good lesson as well for me, because like none of our guys really play MSU. And on paper, and I've seen battle reports and stuff where people come up against MSU, and I've never been impressed by it. And I totally understand what people say, like, if a player uses MSU and knows how to use it, it's so hard to play against. And I think I just came up against that. Because it's not, you will win the first combat probably, but it's the counter charges that he then sets up. And it's not just one, it's like everything hitching flanks and stuff, and it's nasty. So yeah, that was a rude awakening. And it wasn't particularly a good continuation after the first game anyway. But
Michael, he was up against Amit, is that right?
Yeah. We should preface this game by the fact that Michael was getting serious rage about dice.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
We did say his dice were fucking awful.
Oh no, this wasn't about rolling dice. I think Ed should tell this, because Ed had to explain it to him.
Well, so there were 2 things that came up during this game. One of them was the ETC tradition, or I don't know what you would call it, protocol, that if a dice lands on anything apart from the table, it's re-rolled.
Right.
So I came across this, I thought it was strange, took me a bit to get used to, but, whatever. If that's what people want to do, I don't really care. But Michael took exception to the fact that this was then applying to dice that were completely flat, dice that were on paper, basically dice that he thought that dice was fine, there was no need to re-roll it. So he took exception to that, and then there was a whole discussion about re-rolling. If you have to re-roll successful wounds and re-roll failed wounds, those things cancel out, so you just don't bother with the first roll, which took him a little bit of time to get his head around.
This is a mathematician as well, by the way.
What? I didn't even understand. What did he think?
Well, so if I've got reroll failed wounds and I'm attacking you, and you've got reroll successful wounds, then the kind of protocol is that you just ignore the first roll. You don't even bother rolling it,
right? Because
you have to reroll every single dice. So I think in the heat of the moment, the logic of that had possibly passed him by. So there was a somewhat heated discussion over. I think he felt that he was being a bit ETC'd, which I can understand. I've been there.
Okay. Was that in the rule pack for the Midlands about the dice thing?
No.
No.
But to be fair, Amit made clear at the start, because I actually heard him that that's what he was going to do, which is completely fine. Like, I think if you agree before the game, there's no issue. I think,
so he said that before the game started.
Yeah. I think Michael kind of agreed to it, but didn't really realise what he was agreeing to. And then...
Okay.
Michael assumed that he was agreeing to re-rolling cock dice.
Yeah, and Michael was like, yeah, fucking obvious, fuck's sake.
Obviously, totally.
Okay, so the game itself.
Yeah, so sorry, I just found all that bit really amusing because I'd already been pumped by this point, so I got to watch Michael get really frustrated with times.
Yeah, we have no idea how the game went because all we heard was about the dice.
Yeah.
That's all we took away from the game at all.
Okay.
Yeah,
Can you remember his score at least?
His score was 16-4 to Amit.
Right, okay, so he picked up some points.
Yeah, I remember Michael actually saying to me, I think it was like turn 2, that it was going okay. So I think maybe Amit just kind of turned the screws in the latter game. I mean, Michael took 1,345 points, which is okay. It's not obviously game winning, but I mean that's an okay point haul to take when you're losing 64. So I don't really know what happened in that game, and I'm sorry, Michael, if I've done that injustice.
Sorry, Michael said that the game itself was absolutely fine, that other than kind of the sort of strange rules that he came across, that his opponent was a perfect gentleman as well.
Yeah, because all the guys were really nice, and I thought it was the funniest thing about it was when, because I'd been pumped by this stage, and I came over and I was watching Michael and like Amit trying to explain to Michael about the rerolls, and Michael looking really confused and Amit looking really confused just because like he didn't know what he wasn't getting.
Right, okay.
So that filled my heart with joy after being
Okay. So you guys took 19 points that round, is that right?
No, the other guys took 19 points. I took fuck all.
No, sorry. The team took 19 points. Okay. But you were capped at 30.
Yay!
Yeah, we got 30 points.
Is that what you were talking about, Andy, when you were talking about there was a round that you were capped?
Yeah, I believe this was the only round that we scored less than 30, therefore the only round we were actually capped. And a couple of other teams round about us, I think, got capped a few times.
Yep. So, game 3, last game of the day. Who were you guys up against?
We played against Pigmar.
Pigmar?
Yeah.
How'd that go down?
I was actually, when we got drawn, I had conflicting emotions because I really wanted to play these guys, but I'd just been pumped 2 games in a row, and I was starting to feel like this might hurt. So for this game, I got drawn against Mao Patel, who brought his Jurassic Park Soaring Nations. Michael played none other than Tom Taylor, aka Tommy Tucker, which I was very jealous of.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Ed, you played Jack, is that right, Jack Austin?
I think I was feeling overly confident after the first vampire game. I was like, I could do it. Vampires. Vampires are easy.
And Andy, you played Phil?
With the Vermin Swarm, yeah.
Cool. And did you get the pairings you were looking for, or were you screwed when it came to that? What happened?
Well, Ed fancied his chances against the undead because he was on a vampire high.
Right, okay.
They had the choice between myself and Andy for the Vermin Swarm, that was right. And Andy got the Vermin Swarm, which we were fine with. Michael going against Tom was good because Michael's got a lot of stuff that fucks with the armor. Yep. So we thought that was a good matchup. I think the worst one was me going against Mal because he had 2 cowboys, 3 Taurosaurs, MSU Saurus everywhere, and lots of skinks. So that was a red on mine, but I kind of thought after my first 2 performances, how much worse could it get? So let's just go with it.
Okay. So do you want to talk about your game just now then, Andrew?
Yeah, sure. So at first, and I apologise to Mal on the day, because I had come out with 2 bad losses and I was going into this game, which was not looking good on paper. I played really defensively. And I actually felt really shitty for doing it, and I shouldn't have done it. With hindsight, I should have just gone for it. But Mal was really good fun to play against. So yeah, so he had 2, bullshit cowboys, he had druidism coming out of the wazoo, 3 Taurosaurs, lots of MSU, Saurus, and then some skinks and stuff. So I basically cornered, and I put my knights in a position where if I wanted to push later on, they could kind of slip out from behind there was like a hill in a building. So I was using that as cover and they could slip round and maybe take some points late game, and it was hold the centre. And it wasn't going to happen, because even if I park all my infantry on the centre, he's just got too many units that will get around and get flanks and stuff. So basically, we shot each other for a few turns because Mal walked up to the objective and didn't go any further because he didn't want to essentially just risk the combat when he knew that I wasn't really wanting to commit. So it got to like end of turn 1, and I kind of slapped myself out my slump, and I was joking around and stuff. And then I saw that he'd like marched up past the building. So the building was now offering cover to my knights. So if my knights could get round the building, I could get in his backfield. And the knights would evaporate all the little Saurus units. So I was like, right, I'll go do that. I'll take points where I can. Hopefully disrupt them enough, and then maybe the infantry can push in late game and take the secondary. But I completely forgot about bolt throwers. Because the Taurosaurs each had the great bows on them. I thought that it was just the big shot that was AP6, not all shots on the bolt throwers. So my knights moved up, and their arse end was just poking out of the building, so you could see like along the flanks of the 3 Taurosaurs who were basically moving up in a line.
Shit.
So he fired all 3, hit with all 3, and wiped out 7 knights, which decimated the unit. And that was just complete oversight on my behalf. There was no excuse for that. So then I was stuck, like the prelate was just left there with the champion, and the standard was going, fuck! So they actually, I was at the stage in the game where I was like, right, I'll throw them into a unit. If it pops it, great. If not, then they're not going to do much anyway. And I was like, nah, you should hold them back, just save the points. And I was like, nah, fuck it, I've had a shit day, I want to kill something. Turns out that's not enough knights to kill a unit Saurus. They hit the Saurus, didn't kill them, got flanked, died. But that was pretty much the game, and we just basically sat and shot each other. And I was actually hitting stuff with the artillery, like I was putting wounds on the Taurosaurs and the Cowboys, but he was just regrowing it with Druidism.
Yeah.
So, and
Shamanism as well on the list.
Yeah. The Shamanism didn't come into too much, it was really the Druidism. But it was quite funny. You sent one Cowboy off to chase the chickens, and the chickens just ran round in circles round a bit of impassable, and the Cowboys chased them for 5 turns. So that was good
Awesome.
fun. I was a really good opponent. I'm just sorry that I didn't give him a better game. And with hindsight, I probably should have, but alas. It was a good game nonetheless.
That's the main thing. How about you, Andy, in your game?
My game
Against,
3 against the Vermin Swarm, yeah. That could have gone better.
You know,
And I thought I would
sorry, you play Vermin Swarm fairly regularly, don't you?
Robert, who I've played a few times, he was the team with Michael and myself for Strivelin Siege. So yeah, we've had a few practice games, working up for that tournament. So yeah, I mean, and he's played it, for a while, and obviously my kid plays Skaven, so I've got some insight into the list. Extra grudge as well against Vermin Swarm, so I thought I had quite a good matchup here. However, didn't play all that well. I mean, I basically made one big mistake that kind of decided the game, I reckon. Maybe not a mistake, but certainly things didn't go my way in a pivotal matchup. So he had, let's think, so quite a few of the Vermin Hulks, the smaller ones.
Vermin Hulks, yeah, sorry, yeah.
So a big unit of Vermin Hulks with his general on sort of whatever they're called, a Vermin Hulk bodyguard creature that he rides. Never seen one of those before, not on the table anyway. He also had a big unit of Plague Brotherhood with the Plague Pendulum, which is a nightmare for anybody to play against. A couple of smaller units of the Thunder Hulks, which have got the sort of various shooting weapons, the rattling guns and things like that, flamethrowers, all sorts of nastiness. 2 Dreadmills, which I had no idea how scary these things are in the shooting phase. So my opponent had 2 Dreadmills and a unit of giant rats, 30 giant rats. They are purely to soak up wounds. It was just like a moving wound soaker upper, which is an incredible idea. One Dreadmill got, close enough to one of my Vengeance Seekers that it deleted it like that. It does multi-wounds as well, so I had no idea about that, just how devastating they were. But to be honest, my opponent didn't even really need them. Took a charge. No, totally. So I mean, he just deployed pretty much all the way across the board. I deployed in the middle, hoping to make use of a field. I had flaming on my crossbow dwarfs, so I thought, right, I'll force him to come through the field. It didn't occur to him that he was going to be flammable until he actually went to move the models, and he just took the damage in the end. But I figured, go through that field, I'll pour in the flaming shots and hopefully do enough damage to this unit that when it does hit my lines, I'll be able to hold it up and get something in the flank. And it almost worked, but in the crucial turn when this unit of quarrelers or unit of crossbowmen had to hold, after doing a fair bit of damage to the unit, I didn't get any magic off in that phase. I rolled like 2 1s for my magic, and I also rolled a 1 and a 2 when I went to cast one spell. So any buff on this unit of crossbow guys would have been enough to hold, and I could have got one of my bigger blocks in the flank of his general's unit. But in the end, they just tore straight through, and the guys didn't hold. I did manage to salvage some points. I think basically took out pretty much everything I had. Once those vermin hulks were past the crossbow doors, they were then able to just delete war machines. Took out both war machines. My Vengeance Seekers get taken out to slings, I think. A unit of...
Wow.
What are the guys with the slings? The gutter runners.
The gutter runners.
Footpads.
Sorry.
Footpads, that's
God.
it. Yeah.
GW
So one unit
flap.
a unit of footpads with slings took out a Vengeance Seeker in the forest. So this is a model with, toughness 4, 3 wounds, hard target distracting in a forest, 1 round of shooting, gone. From a basic unit. I think the unit had 10 or 15, 10 models, 20 shots. It was no good. The other Vengeance Seeker got taken out by that Dreadmill through a piece of impassable terrain. So apparently, the shooting attack on a Dreadmill, it deletes whatever unit is nearest, even if that is through impassable terrain.
Really?
And that caught me by surprise. Well, there's nothing in the rules that say needs line of sight. All it says is nearest unit takes hit. And
Lightning.
yeah,
It's much like magic, basically.
Bloody hell.
I guess it goes round the corner or whatever. So yeah, that took me by surprise. So yeah, I was left with nothing but the Deep Watch with all the characters in it. Everything else is dead. Looking at a 20-0. However, managed to charge a couple of his units. His unit with the Plague Pendulum grounded down, took out his BSB. General's unit got away. I charged it fled. I charged another unit, it fled, and in the end he got the secondary. So I managed to claw the points back to 11-9, but he ended up getting the secondary, so 14-6, I think. Yeah.
I'm not sure you could lose 20-0 with your Deep Watch still intact, can you?
What is it? You need 70% more points, and I'd killed pretty much none of his units at that time.
You must have more than
he had
30% in your in that unit with the characters, no?
So 666 for the Deep Watch, 750 odd for the King. No, you're quite right. It would never be a 20 unless he took it, but it wouldn't have been far away. It would have been
look
at
at Andy, can't lose 20 no.
Ed, how did your round 2 against the vampires go?
Fantastic. This was my best game of the tournament. It was my only win of the tournament, but I was totally buzzing after this game. I was very happy. So I played against Jack Austin, who I played online a while ago, and he utterly thrashed me with a Sylvan Elf list. So I was quite happy for the chance to get back at him. I think he picked me deliberately to have a go again. We were playing secure targets, so I put one target on the other side of a building, or right next to a building, to take advantage of the fact that I could move around the building quicker than any of his units could, and still be within 6 inches. And he put his target right slap bang in the middle of the table. Then he dropped a big unit of 50 skeletons on the target that was out of the way, basically to try and stop me from getting it, or to ensure that he got a unit on it. But by dividing his forces, he ended up leaving his back line fairly exposed, and everything I had was fast. So I just went round his army. I got charges onto the 2 altars of undeath, and I popped them one after the other, overran into his necromancer bunker with, I think, 5 units in total, and after 2 turns, it just disappeared, along with all his necromancers, so all he had left was his vampire. His vampire's unit, with the big barrel guard unit, was coming round, so I chaffed them up with my BSB. He charged, I challenged, he took it with his vampire, and I killed his vampire. So at that point, there was just this big unit of barrel guard with a BSB in it, which was causing me problems because I kind of got greedy and tried to go after a 20-0 that I didn't really need. I had a couple of goes at the White King. I think I left him on 1 wound, which meant that it was I think, was it a 19-1 in the end, that game? Can't remember.
Yeah, 19-1.
Nice.
So, yeah, it was a big win. I think Jack was a little bit worse for alcohol at the beginning, and that only got progressively worse as the game went on. But basically, I think the fact that my army could get round the back of his entirely, and the fact that he split his army cost him the game, and a bit of luck on my part, and I think he miscast quite heavily. Oh, because of the tome, I forget the item.
Yeah.
There's none. The undead book that
Dark Tome.
Which adds 2 dice to a misspell.
Mm-hmm.
So his miscast on 3 dice turned into a miscast on 5. So his zombie bunker was looking a bit bedraggled by the time I got into it. I mean, to be honest, some of those combats I was winning by 20 resolution, and the units were just disappearing. So,
wow.
Good old zombies.
it was,
I was going to ask you on a scale of 1 to 10 how drunk was Jack, but
it depends. At the start of the game, I'd have said, a 3 or a 4. By the end of the game, it was something like a 9 or a 10.
Yeah, so he's like D3 plus the turn number.
Yeah, pretty much.
That was a good result though, because Jack's obviously a very good player. That's a good list that he brought. It's really hard to break down. So I think no matter the state he was in, it was a good effort. So yeah, Michael played against the one and only Tommy Tucker, and Tom wasn't happy about the matchup. He was telling Mal that Mal had betrayed him and he'd fed him to Orcs and Goblins, and he wasn't happy about it. And Michael was quite happy about it because he got to play Tom, but also it's a good matchup for him. So the first few turns seemed to go in Michael's favour. He was starting to do a lot of damage with his random stuff, including, and this is the MVP across the board for all
whole
our
tournament.
armies. Whole tournament MVP is Michael's pump wagon, the one that's a pirate ship, or Ed's pump wagon that's the pirate ship. Charged a Lord of Chaos and killed him with impact hits.
Fucking hell. Was he at full wounds? He wasn't at full wounds, was he?
No, I think he'd taken some damage, but still, there was a big mountain in front of him and he just fucked it.
Jeez.
So that's why I want to get a warrior head to attach to the pirate ship.
That's awesome. So good.
How does the pump wagon work with impact hits? What strength is it?
2d6 strength 4 with an additional 2 AP, so it's -3 to armor.
-3 to armor. I'm looking at Tom's list. He had a 1-up, 6-up on that guy.
Yeah, so he's saving on a 4-up, 6-up.
Punk.
That sucks.
However, Tom managed to turn the screws in the last couple of turns, and because I looked over at one stage and Michael said, yeah, it's going really well, and then I looked over again a couple of turns later and Michael said, no, it's going really badly, and Tom had all kinds of shit into Michael's goblin units, and there's just dead bodies getting pulled out everywhere. So I think once he got past the random stuff, what actually looked really good, Michael hadn't managed to get enough damage through, and when he got in, he just started churning.
Warriors with paired weapons, it's got chosen with paired weapons. Yeah, that's not going to go well for goblins.
Yeah. So it ended 18-2 to Tom.
Right.
But Michael said that he loved the game. He had a really good time, and they seemed to have a good laugh as well. So
that's good.
I think that was a really good round, like really fun team to play against. But we maybe just didn't get the results.
I don't know how to feel about that. I'm conflicted because I'm a Warriors player. I like seeing Warriors win.
I've played that list against Warriors a few times, and the core of it is you've got to hold them up, you've got to thin them down, and then hopefully you take your chances to finish off what's left. But if you don't thin them enough and you don't delay them enough, then you get screwed. So
yeah, it's hard, because you've got that much random stuff that could do such good damage against armor that if you don't clear your chaff, and you've got so much of it to deal with, like if you just don't have that capability in your list, it really struggles. So it's a good matchup. So yeah, I can totally appreciate that. So after your third round, you guys took another 31 points. So for the day, we're sitting at 94. How are you feeling at the end of game 3?
I could have played 2 more games.
Were you just getting into were you just hitting your strides after that?
Pretty much.
I was just kind of annoyed at myself because apart from like even in the tanker game where I was quite clearly outplayed, I pushed when I didn't really need to, and there was just errors that I was making, and I was getting frustrated at the knights because the knights were doing fuck all, and it was really annoying me. So yeah, I was just kind of a bit frustrated at myself, but we went for curry and beer after it, so I felt better after that.
That's good. What about you, Andy? How were you feeling after it?
Yeah, I was kind of looking back at a couple of mistakes that I'd made, but sort of fairly optimistic for the following day. I was kind of looking at the end there. I was looking to see, are they going to tell us who we're playing next the following day? Can we have a look over the list that we're going to be up against the following day? But that didn't happen, which is fair enough because we didn't know. We weren't meant to know who we were playing in the first round, only by virtue of the grudge with the Vale Renegades did we know who our first round opponent would be, but otherwise it would have been drawn on that morning. Yeah. So that was fair enough. But yeah, we were looking forward to relaxing definitely at that point.
And it was good, like because we went to Indian restaurant and we kind of just sat and chilled for a few hours and had a couple of beers. It was a nice kind of relaxation after a pretty hard day on the anus, it has to be said.
Cool. So going into day 2 then, when was it they actually told you who you were going to be playing against? Was it like an hour, half an hour beforehand, or?
It was like maybe, I don't know, like 15 minutes.
Right, okay. So it was literally just who you're playing against such and such goal.
Yeah, basically,
Yeah, that was it.
How did you find that? Was that quite difficult?
I think you can outpsych yourself a bit when you're looking at matchups. I mean, obviously having time to prep is good, but because we were kind of in the way of I felt anyway, I was kind of in the way of the tournament. I wasn't particularly bothered about knowing who I was going to play. And I kind of said to the guys before, like at night, I was like, I'm not playing defensive tomorrow, I'm just going for it. And they were like, oh, I don't know if that's a good idea, Andrew. So I was like, no, I know what I'm doing. So I knew my game plan, I don't know about you guys.
I mean, we'd prepped and looked over all the lists, really.
Yeah, to be fair, yeah.
So, it didn't really make a difference. And, yeah, I think sometimes you can overthink these things as well.
Yeah, especially when you consider you actually don't know who you're going to be playing. Even if you knew the team you were up against, there's still a fair amount of random, chance in the pairing process.
Yeah, totally.
So really, you can want to play against a certain list from a given team, but your chances of actually getting that list are unlikely because the opposing team probably don't want that matchup and they'll be doing what they can to get favourable matchups for themselves. So really, over planning it, just, thinking who do I want to play against, who do I not want to play against. At least one or two of those games we ended up playing against, the list that we didn't want. Certainly my next, the 4th game, I haven't played against Saurian Ancients before, which is, you just can't really plan for these things.
Yeah. There's only so much control you get in the pairing process, and sometimes you don't really know who's going to take the hit until you're actually pairing, because so much of it depends on who they put down as well. So
who was it you guys were actually paired up against for your both game?
Team Manhammer.
Who played who?
I played Adam Lake with the Vermistorm. Andy, you played Sandy, which is cute.
Andy versus Sandy, against his dinosaurs,
Dinosaurs. Ed, you played Rob?
Yep, the Infernal Dwarves.
And Michael played Luke Tranter with his Beast Turrets.
Cool. So, Andy, you want to take us through your game first?
Yep, totally. So, I hadn't played against the Saurian Ancients before. I wasn't really sure what to expect, apart from having big targets to aim a cannon at, which on paper looks good. However, at this point in the tournament, my cannon had hit, I think it had hit twice, like in the first 3 games. On one of those occasions, I rolled a 1 to wound. So I'd hit and wounded once with the cannon. The catapult had done a bit better. Not particularly better, had done a little bit better. So, although looking at these monsters, big dinosaurs, alpha carnosaurs, each of them worth 900 points, perfect targets, and a ruined catapult will hit almost as hard as a cannon because it's hitting at strength 8 and it's still doing D3 wounds. So it's almost as scary for big monsters as the cannon. And this was the game where I started rolling successful hits with my war machines. The only time in the last game didn't hit anything again, but this one game I managed to hit something with the cannon repeatedly. My opponent was playing sort of MSU style, so little blocks of 10 Saurus warriors, slightly bigger blocks of skink braves, lots of smaller skirmishing units, 2 units of 6 chameleons, I think, 2 units of 10 skinks with blowpipes that skirmish, a lot of sort of vanguard, and again quite quick, not so easy to deal with, and the big 2 alpha carnosaurs that deployed far away from the guns, and a Taurosaur as well. He had no BSB, but apparently that doesn't matter when you're cold-blooded, because this man doesn't fail leadership tests, ever. So I think that the star of the show for this particular game would have been a Vengeance Seeker that chewed, one Vengeance Seeker by itself chewing through 2 units of Saurus warriors, I think, or an entire one and virtually all of another. I wasn't sure about how that particular matchup would go, but it went in favour of the Vengeance Seeker quite easily.
Twice.
Absolutely. The cannon, as I said, took out, well, let's think. So, cannon hits, takes out an Alpha Carnosaur over 2 rounds, and then in another round, cannon hits and the catapult hits, takes out a Taurosaur, goes from 6 wounds to no wounds in 1 round of shooting.
Bloody hell, that's pretty...
I hope Guillermo's not listening to this, he's going to have fucking nightmares.
Unfortunately, my opponent still had an Alpha Carnosaur, which was able to almost single-handedly take out a unit of Greybeards. Those poor Greybeards, I don't think they survived any of the games. They just got stomped. And again, manoeuvring, basically outmanoeuvred by faster opposing units. A couple of units of 3 came in. Again, they just hit really hard. Apart from the Deep Watch, they didn't have anything that could stand up to the Alpha Carnosaur that was left, or the Cayman units. So despite losing a lot of points in those big monsters, my opponent was able to get in behind me eventually, take out War Machine, take out the Greybeards as well. And so we were quite close. Well, not close on points, but not enough that it was a big win. So he got the objective. It was hold the centre. And although I kind of feel like my list is good at that sort of holding the centre type objective, against lots of smaller units, he had 2 Saurus warriors and 2 Skink Braves, outscored 22 Deep Watch with King on Throne and BSB. Yeah, totally. It makes me think, well, how about scoring models wins, But yeah, so he won the secondary, so it went from a 14-6 to an 11-9. But so still a win.
Cool.
I think he said that he thought you would have parked the Deep Watch on the objective, and that he wouldn't have been able to get enough things close to take it from you.
Well, that's how he expected me to play. My experience of playing like that is that, you leave yourself exposed, you give your opponent an easy time getting into your war machines. Yeah. In fact, what I did is, I did move forward a bit, trying to control the sort of zones that he would move into. In the end, I think he only took out 1 war machine, or maybe not. Maybe took 1 war machine, but he didn't really clear out much. Really, just the Greybeards, 1 war machine, and he got a lucky charge at the end that took out a skirmishing copters. It was a kind of 50-50 whether he made it or not, and I gambled to them not getting it. In the end, the points wouldn't have made any difference whether it fled, held. If it held, and he hadn't caught those copters at the end there, I would have got an extra 300 points, but I would have been 1 point short of the next pip up, as it were. So it wouldn't have made any difference, but it was still a very good game. I'm looking forward to playing against Sauri and Ancients at some point in the future, because it was definitely an exciting game.
How have you not played Guillermo yet?
I don't know. I also haven't played Simon.
Really?
No.
Jeez,
No.
I think Guillermo's missed a couple of the last meets just because he's been working weekends.
Right, okay.
But apparently that's not going to be an issue, so maybe you can get a game
because he killed
against
all
them.
the shrimp.
Maybe you can get a game against them in December.
That's dedication to the cause when you sabotage your PhD just to play
Yeah. I'm sure it was an accident.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, sure.
How did you get on against the Skaven, Andrew?
Really well. So I played against Adam, and Adam had kind of gone the Skaven equivalent of, Vermin Swarm equivalent of my army, and gone kind of mixed arms. He had lots of shooting. He had a huge big block of 36 Vermin Guard. He had 3 units of footpads for his mobile scoring, and then he had 2 A-bombs. 1 A-bomb doesn't bother me at all, but 2 A-bombs is potentially a problem. And my plan was essentially I'll set off and mortar the shit out of that big block. This was like the only matchup across the weekend which was like ideal for my list, I think. And this was actually the only green one from this team for me. So I think the guys kind of felt sorry for me as well after day one. So it was like, we'll give Andrew a good matchup. So go on, go for it.
I was about to say, was this you embracing your captaincy role and just throwing everyone under the bus?
Yeah, absolutely abusing the shit out. So this was a really good matchup for me because I had all the tools to beat the Vermistorm army. So the plan was I'll mortar the shit out of them. I'll send the Knights after 1 A-bomb. If he separates them, ideal, because I'll send the Knights after one and I'll send the Steam Tank after the other. So everything went to plan, really. The Knights kept 1 A-bomb honest, and the A-bomb kept shuffling around in one corner to try and avoid the Knights, and the Knights just crept forward a wee bit to put pressure on him. The Steam Tank just kept shooting the other A-bomb and got him to, like, I hit him 2 turns in a row. I think he was down to 3 wounds. I sacrificed a unit of Rider to try and pop him in the turn, but the Rider ended up not doing anything, and the A-bomb ate them. The first turn, I hit him with the 36 block of Ermengarde. I hit them with a mortar. Direct hit. I caused 11 wounds with the area attack. He had a 4-up save goes to 5-up because AP1, and he saved 9 of them. It was fucking ridiculous. But it was going pretty well, and then one mortar misfired. So I kind of felt like I had to push up a wee bit because I felt like I needed to get points. I couldn't sit back like I did the day before. I'd never played against Doom Wheels before. I played against Vermistorm a few times, but never against the Doom Wheels. And he threw a Doom Wheel up in front of the chickens. And I was like, alright, okay, I'll maybe kill a chicken, but that'll be fine. And he was like, oh, it's AP6, and it does like these 2d6 hits or whatever, and 2d6 strength. And I was like, fuck, that could obliterate the chickens. This could be really, really bad. And he rolls up, he rolls for the hits, he does like 4 hits. So I was like, okay, I might still just lose a chicken. He rolls for the strength 2. I was like, yes! So he tickled the chicken, did fuck all. The chickens charged him, bet up the Doom Wheel, overran into a unit of Globadiers, killed them, positioned themselves so that they could get a flank on the big unit of Verminguard who had moved off a hill. And this was Adam's big mistake, is he'd moved the Verminguard unit up without any support. So my infantry managed to hit him in the front and one of the sides, and the chickens got in from the other side and basically just evaporated the Verminguard. And all his characters were in there. So it was so much his points. The Steam Tank wrapped up the other A-bomb, and I was just kind of picking up points on that side of the field. The Knights, however, fucked me yet again. I needed a 10 Swift Stride, so like average. They failed. That's okay. They stumbled forward 5. So I was 12 inches away from the A-bomb. So the A-bomb moves random 3d6. So if he doesn't move the A-bomb, I'm going to get him. So there's no reason for him not to push the A-bomb into the Knights. And he rolls fucking 15 on the dice. The A-bomb smashes into the Knights. He does shed with his strength 6 attacks and just obliterates the Knights. And I was like, awesome. So this is game 4, right? The Knights have taken 0 points across 4 games. However, it didn't really matter because I got so many points elsewhere, and I got the secondary. It was 20-0. So at least I got one good result.
That's good, starting day 2 on a high.
Yeah, so I was going into the last game feeling a lot better.
Ed, you were up against Rob's Chaos Dwarves, is that right?
Yep, Inferno Dwarves, and this was the worst rubber lance that I've ever experienced, I think.
Need some Viagra.
I went into this game thinking, I'm okay with this matchup. You know, Kadim Titan, yes, it's nasty, but I've got tools. I hadn't appreciated that he had Beshaluk's mechanism, so that he was going to be aiming to regrow wounds. I don't think I'd have played any different had I thought about that from the start, to be quite honest. So, game started. He was sitting quite far back. He was playing fairly cagey. I came forward. I set up. He brought his Kadim Titan forward, and I thought, bingo, he's given me the front charge with the Grail Knights. I've got a flank charge set up with my Grail character. They're both immune to psychology. They don't give a shit about fear or terror. Both charges went off. Both charges went in. Great. This should be a 1-turn win, and then I should roll on to some of the other stuff. As it was, that did not happen. So, basically, the Grail Knights failed to show up. They should have been averaging about 4 wounds. with divine attacks, so he should have been, reroll 5+ ward saves. But I think they caused nothing. The character in the flank who was 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, maybe did a wound, static combat res, he just passed his test. I was sort of left thinking, I should have killed you outright on wounds, never mind combat res, but I thought it was just one of those fights that just didn't go my way. And he passed every ward save he was given to pass. I think I did in the end kill the Titan. I had to divert a unit of knights over that way, but I think I did probably 12 to 15 wounds on that thing in total, between all the saves that he kept making before it died.
There's nothing you can do when that happens, though. It's out of your hands.
It was frustrating. I'd had to dedicate so much resources to finishing that off that it crippled my whole flank, and it wasn't a great setup for me once that charge went wrong. So in the end of this game, I was left with no characters because he got a couple of lucky charges off in the last turn. I had one aspirant knight musician who claimed the secondary for me all on his own in a show of great bravery, and one remnant of an aspirant knight unit, and that was all that I was left with. But because I took the secondary and because I'd done a bit of damage to him, I think it was 12 or 13 that I lost instead of being a 20, which I was slightly worried about at times.
Okay, so you're still picking up some points, so that's good.
Yeah, I mitigated the loss to a degree, but it was still painful, that experience.
Cool.
Especially because I didn't think I'd played anything wrong. I think I'd pretty much set myself up to win the game, but hey, that's how it goes.
And how did Michael get on against the Beastmen? Was that the first time he was playing them, or he played Nick before?
I think he's played Nick before, and he played Nick with Orcs and Goblins. So, but
Okay.
This was definitely the one matchup across the 4, which was the bad one. So Michael kind of took the bus for this one. Because Luke, quite famously on the first day, got a 20-0 in 2 turns.
What?
Because
Yeah.
it's so fast, the list, and it's got lots of chariots and stuff. So he'd set up on the line, and it was what's the 18-inch one, Ed?
It was a diagonal.
A diagonal, sorry, that's right.
Bank, yeah. So he was 18 inches away from lots of units, and he basically just set up charges and took every charge he could and rolled over everything.
We did kill shit. It wasn't like the person just rage quit.
No,
he killed it all, yeah. Super impressive. And at the end of turn 1, Michael turned to me and said, "It's going okay, I've just got to keep him away from me." And then I looked back, turn 2, and he was right up in his face. And it was a really bad matchup, to be fair, to Michael.
Yeah.
And Luke ended up getting a 20-0 out of that one. I don't know if there was a lot Michael could have done, because if he gets in, the nature of the Beast Herd army just now is just, if it gets in, it does exactly what it's meant to do, and it just destroys stuff, basically.
Yeah, I mean, it's quick. He's got 2 gold attacks, he's got 5 chariots, 2 units of centaurs, he's got 2 ambition wild herds, so it's quick.
Yeah. And Luke's actually today signed up to the Scottish Championship. So
Oh, nice.
Coming up, yeah, so that'll be good to have
So we
him
can
up.
look forward to getting 20 odes turn 2
Turn 2, yeah.
next year.
So yeah, that was a swings and roundabouts round.
Yeah, but they were a good team to play against.
Yeah, good fun. I felt bad for Adam actually, because Adam had hurt his back day 2, so he was in a bit of pain throughout. But he was a really nice guy, good game.
Cool. So heading into the last game then of the tournament, how are you guys feeling? You picked up 38 points that game, so that was your best kind of phase, your best round of the tournament so far. So you feeling a bit more positive?
It's amazing what happens when I carry my own weight, rather than just bleed points left, right, and centre.
So you guys feeling pretty good? Well, certainly kind of, like I say, a bit more positive going into the last game.
I think, I mean, we were facing a dragons team with no dragons, well, 1 dragon. I don't think we were fancying our chances, but, we thought we could try and finish on a respectful level.
Right, okay. So what was the team that you were playing? What were they called?
Dragons 2.
Yeah.
Dragons 2. Okay. So who did you end up facing?
So I played against Lorenzo and a very filthy Beast Herds list. Michael played against Martin Hughes, which was a Orcs and Goblin mirror match, which is a funny game when we get to that. Ed, you're going to have to remind me of who you played.
I played, I've forgotten his name, Alessandro?
Oh yeah, Highborn Elves?
Yeah, Highborn Elves. With a...
Ancient Dragon. Nice.
Ancient Dragon, that one, yeah.
Cool.
And Andy, what was the name of the chap you played?
Pass. MD have it in front of them. It was the Dread Elves, yeah.
Nick.
Yes, that's the man. He was very nice individual. With the Dread Elves, I think nobody really fancied going up against, as I recall. 'Cause I certainly did not want to play against that list because it had a huge block of executioners, and big blocks of executioners ignore most armour, ignore most stuff.
Yeah.
So going into this, your kind of last game in the tournament, we guys pretty much just, right, let's just try and have fun. We're not going to win it now. We can just try and just enjoy ourselves.
Well,
I think that decision should have been reached on game one. So
Yeah.
You weren't clinging on to hope that you were all going to somehow manage to win the tournament
20s across
after
the board.
no.
after game 4.
But I think at this point we had a very realistic chance of finishing last, which I think is where we were maybe aiming or not aiming, depending on...
Yeah, there wasn't much aim involved. I think we were going into this round, and we spoke a little bit before it, and just kind of like last game, we're definitely not. We're probably going to finish last, if not around that area. So just go in and have fun your last game. The Dragons boys, though, were very shifty.
Oh really?
Yeah, they disappeared between the rounds, so they were late coming. And then before the round started, they took the good part of 15 minutes to talk about pairings. Like, just those guys went off. And then they took ages during the pairings, because they kept disappearing and talking about stuff. And I think it was just like a clash of mentalities, because they must have been thinking that they could get a little bit higher up the table, whereas we were just like, let's just throw dice and see what happens. It was a bit annoying that we took so long to get started in that last game, but alas.
It gets worse. My opponent had a rules query, and the tournament organiser, Slatch, and my opponent were having a conversation for about 20 minutes.
Oh, really? Junior game?
A rule, yeah. Before my game started, so we didn't actually start rolling dice until an hour into the start off. So we had 2 hours to play our game instead of 3.
That's bullshit.
Yeah.
Which was a pain in the neck, but I'll go into that.
Right, so Andy, you kick us off then. You talk about your game against Nick. That hour loss aside.
Yeah, so for the first hour of game time, I sat about and twiddled my thumbs. And that was an enjoyable period, watching other people playing games. But when it finally got started, my opponent was very nice, so no problems there, as with every other opponent that I had over the 2 days. He told me that he wasn't, he was still learning how to play the game and how to play the army. So, I mean, his army was beautifully painted, but apparently he doesn't play very often. So I was to keep him right. He didn't want me to let him get away with any nonsense, so just keep him right. So that's fair enough. He's basically saying, I'm an experienced player, which, makes me think, is this just a bit of a ruse, because he's got a pretty deadly list there, certainly not a list that, you just randomly come up with. He did deploy it right in the corner, which meant it took a while marching across the board to come and get me. So I deployed right in the middle of the table. He had his bolt throwers lined up, taking up most of his board side, sort of over to, in the middle and over to one side. And the other side, where his bolt throwers were not, he deployed his a spearman with altar of divine nastiness, block of 30 executioners and horde, and whatever else he had. His oracle sort of by herself on a raptor, and a block of corsairs, which looked a lot nastier than they were, because they had a unit filler that looked a lot like an altar of some sort. So I think it was definitely designed to put intimidation into people. There was a captain in there. There was a character, just not a BSB, but just a character in the unit. So it wasn't entirely toothless. So he plods across the board. What was it? The Rune Devouring really came into this game as well. So yeah, again, he's kind of saying, I don't really know how to use this list. I don't know too much about it. He's got alchemy lore, and I wasn't really sure which spell to dispel when I watched carefully what he rolled at the start. And the only one that really sort of jumped out at me as one that I had to get rid of was the Corruption of Tin, because Corruption of Tin a couple of times, so it's -1 to armour and it's permanent. So Corruption of Tin a couple of times on Deep Watch turns them from Deep Watch into, well, elves, basically. Not very good elves either. So, yeah, I got rid of that. And apparently he didn't know that it was a permanent, that it stacked, any of this. So he cast it on my pair of copters to take them from a 4 up to a 5 up. And then the spell was gone and devoured it. And if he'd known, he did say this to me at the time, if he'd known how useful the spell could be, certainly in this matchup, he would have been much more careful about where he cast it. But, you know, that's why you play these games, so that you can learn.
Yep.
So yeah, he comes across the table at me, and there was one pivotal combat really that he should have won. Oh yeah, I should say also, sorry, my catapult, which was really going to help me out here. It was going to take big chunks out of his executioners, which is what I really needed it to do. It misfired on the first shot, my first turn, took a wound. His first turn shooting, his Reapers take 3 wounds off it. And in my second turn shooting, I misfire again, and my catapult kills itself. So there goes my answer to the executioners, who are quite quickly marching across the board toward my lines, and I've not have much answer for them. Luckily, the other shooting I've got, the copters and the marksmen are hanging off wounds or models off of this executioner unit, really concentrating fire on it. So I managed to get the executioners down to sort of 2 rows of 10 and maybe a couple of bodies behind it, so really not making use of the horde formation anymore, really losing attacks at that point. He does chuck them into my Greybeards, which is a matchup that the executioners should have won. But he fluffs his to hit rolls. I think he's rolling 15 hits, and the first roll he gets 3. So he's hitting in 4s. He manages to get 3 4s out of 15 rolls. And then with Hatred, he gets re-rolls and he only manages another 5. So he really, really fluffed that first turn of combat. And his executioners bounce off the Greybeards, who chase him down and cut him to ribbons. And that's what really swings the game. When you can't rely on a block of executioners to do your work, then you know the game's not going to go your way. We only made it to, I think, turn 5, and you know, with that unit gone, but the overrun took the Greybeards into his Oracle, which you know was on 1 wound after I think the copters were taking wounds off it. So they knocked that out and then went straight into his auxiliary unit with the altar. I had set up 2 more charges, so I needed a 7 on Swift Stride as my Deep Watch to get into that big block, and my marksman had reformed into a block and were ready to go into the flank. If I had a couple more turns, there would have been nothing left to fight against. So ended a 16-4, so my biggest win definitely of the tournament. A very enjoyable game, but I just wish I'd had a bit more time to really capitalise on my luck.
You just wish you had a bit more time to fucking table the guy.
It would have been a nice way to end it.
Yeah, but it would have been.
The score was good. Like I'm happy with it overall, but knowing that you know 1 more turn, even I would have got my Deep Watch into a combat, you know, for the first time in the tournament. Yeah, one thing I've learned is that if you stack too many eggs in one basket, as it were, put too many points in one unit, people will just avoid it, and you won't actually get to use it. I don't think they really did much throughout the tournament. I mean, I won a couple of combats, but nothing pivotal, because maybe against the Vermin Swarm they took out the Pendulum and the Plague Brotherhood, but in this game they failed that charge. I needed a 7 on Swift Stride, didn't get it. If they'd got in, they would have mangled that unit in the turn that I overran into it, so they got to fight again. I could have picked up easily 2 or 3 more points just in that 1 more turn, but wasn't to be.
Oh well, 16-4 is still a pretty solid win. Andrew, how did you get on with the Beastherds?
Not good.
Okay.
So I played
Is that
Lorenzo.
it?
Yeah, I played Lorenzo, and he's got a really pushy, aggressive Beastherd list. He's got like double Gortak, a big unit of Minos with a Mino Lord in there, a couple of units of Centaurs, a couple of units of Ambition Wildhorns, and then a Chariot Lord BSB. So this really isn't a good matchup. I mean, I play Beastherds a lot because I play Nick, and I know that if I push against it and it goes my way, it can go very well, but I also know if I push it and it goes wrong, it goes very, very badly. So looking across the other guys' games, I thought, right, I'll just play really defensively and try and lose as minimally as possible. and there was a real risk that if Lorenzo just threw everything down my throat, there was not a lot I could do about it. So we were obviously late getting set up, and the first four turns were, decent pace, standard. Playing along, Lorenzo was, nice enough guy, having good fun. He's got the fucking luckiest Gore-Tex in the world. I was dropping mortar shells on them, cannonballs, and I was doing like 1 wound for the multiple wounds, or I was rolling a 1 to wound. I couldn't do enough damage to them. My knight were over on one side, and the plan was try and lure them to the infantry who were in one corner, try and get all his stuff heading towards them, and then the knights can get in behind. So a similar game plan to what had been going so fucking wrong in the first day. I thought, I'll re-employ that for the last game. That went well. The Knights actually did take points this game. They killed a unit of Ungor Raiders. So that was like 130 points they got across 5 games. So it was nice. I had to employ the most expensive chaff in the world at one point to keep his Mino Lord away from my Knights. I chaffed him up with my chickens. And then I chaffed him up with the Divine Altar. Just to keep him away. Because I was like, this game, the chickens are not going to die. But it was actually going okay. The first couple of games, Ed actually came down at one point, and I said to Ed, like, if he'd really thrown this stuff down me, this would be a massive loss. But he wasn't. He was being a bit more conservative. I think he was worried about my shooting. So I thought I might actually be able to sneak a small win here. But the Gore-Tex kept trundling towards the infantry, and the Knights were set up so that they could really get in behind them and start picking off units, like smaller units, and like his shaman was running about in a unit of Ungors and stuff, so that's like easy points if I can get them. So he chaffed me up with the Ungors, who I ate, and then that set me up so that in my turn, I could essentially charge most of his squishy stuff. Like he had a Chariot Lord as well, which I would easily charge. And then, as a kind of last gasp thing, he threw his Jabberwock in at the Knights, and the fucking Jabberwock killed the Knights. He got the Lethal Strike spell from Evocation off.
Yep.
So the Jabberwock has 5 attacks. Let me just check this, because this is worth noting how much bullshit happened. It has 4 attacks, Jabberwock. That's even worse. 4 attacks. He was re-rolling for Primal Instinct, and the Jabberwock actually doesn't have Primal Instinct. I know that. That's actually more my fault than his fault, because I play Beast Knights all the time, and I know that it doesn't, but when he was rolling it, I never clocked. So he hit with 4 of his, all 4 attacks hit. And then, because of course the Knights failed their Leadership 8 fear check, just another Leadership 8. And because he had the Lethal Strike spell off on them, he rolled for his wounds and he rolled 3 6s. So he killed 3 Knights outright. Because of the -1 for the aura, the -1 for the fear, although it was the prelate that was taking it, he's immune to fear because of the helmet. I broke, I ran, and he chased me and killed me. And then, this was
20-point model.
It was just, it was so bullshit, because up until that point, there was a good chance that I was going to get a small win out of that, because basically I was just keeping all the stuff, like his Gore-Tex were focused on the infantry, and the only thing I wasn't too keen on getting involved with was the Minos. But he kind of veered the Minos away, so actually I was looking that I could maybe even get a cheeky recharge or flank charge, because I was chaffing the Minos up with State Militia. So it was actually going really well. But then that happened. It's just, there's nothing you can do. It's just when the dice fuck you over. And then that was like turn 4. So we were going into turn 5. We comfortably had enough time for turn 5, but it wasn't looking like we were going to get turn 6. And then Lorenzo goes into, takes some speed or something and just starts because he decides that he's going to play 6 turns now. And just starts going really quickly and rolling dice and going through stuff. And so I was getting a little bit, not annoyed. Annoyed's the wrong word, because he was nice enough guy to play against, but I kind of felt that he was being a wee bit gamey, rushing through it, just because it wasn't our fault that the games were delayed. It was essentially their fault for taking so long to set up.
Yeah.
But then we got to the end of turn 5 and basically Slat shouted dice down. So if we'd ended it there, it would have been a small win to him, but I think he would have got the secondary. So it probably would have been, I don't know, a 13 or 14 to him. As it ended, my infantry had managed to kill a Gore-Tex, fucking yas. But the Minos had just got into the front, or were just about to get into the front of my big block of infantry, and the Gore-Tex was getting into the flank of them. So that wasn't going to go well. It was just a question of whether they hold or not.
Yeah.
And Lorenzo was like, right, let's just go for it, let's roll and stuff. So we ended up talking through it and rolling in that, like just rolling like key bits, but we didn't roll that combat. He had his shaman on a bit by himself now because he'd sacrificed Ungors. So he said, right, roll a couple mortar shots to see if you kill the shaman, which I didn't. And then he was like, right, so I would take those points, and he pointed to the infantry. And I was like, I don't know if you do, because it basically just comes down to how many attacks you pump out, what spells I get off. It probably would take those points, but it was dicey, and there's so many points in that unit that it was a bit meh. But I was kind of get to the stage where I just couldn't be bothered anymore. It was like last game, it was clear that I hadn't won, so I was just like, right, okay, whatever. So then he just started going, right, I'll take that points, I would take the mortars, blah, 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 blah. And I was just kind of agreeing, because I was like, fuck it, I don't care anymore. But in hindsight, I should have stood my ground, because that's what Andy and Nick did, and that was the right decision, I think. Whatever. It doesn't matter at the end of the day, but I just felt that it was a bit...
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, this is a game of dice. I mean, you could sit down and you could look at people's lists, and you could look at the numbers, and you could say, right, this is likely to happen, and this is likely to happen. But the reason we play the game is because that's not how it goes. I mean, in so many of the games that you guys have been talking about, there's been charges that probably should have went off, and there's been luck, and there's been kind of some unlucky stuff that have gone down, so you can't really do that.
Yeah.
And I think as soon as you decide you're playing this game, I think you need to admit that that's the situation. So I don't really like that you're effectively can just decide on how the game would go without actually rolling anything out. So yeah, I would say that's it's a bit gamey. Don't really like that.
But I mean, like, Lorenzo was fine for the game, and see, I feel bad even saying that because he was nice enough to play against. It was just that, I don't know, I felt there was something maybe a bit off with the fact that he took so long to play, and then kind of rushed in the last few turns I didn't really like. But
to be fair, it's just a point of common courtesy. You just turn up when you're supposed to be there.
But it's fine. Like we said, there was no chance that we were podiuming, but I think maybe with hindsight, knowing how close it was at the bottom of the table, maybe I should have stood my ground. But that's not what happened. So it ended up that Lorenzo got a 20 out of that.
Okay. Ed, how did your game go?
So my game against Highborn Elves was a very cagey affair. I deployed a lot of my army behind one building. I basically picked sides. So I think something I did quite well during this tournament was deployment. So I picked side. I put him on the side that had more terrain to work around, knowing that it would limit his Reapers. Is it Reapers? I forget what they're called.
Yeah,
Sea Guard Reapers.
Yeah, because I knew that they were going to be a threat to my characters and my cavalry. And yeah, I was basically hyped behind the building for a lot of the game. Took a couple of charges, took out some light cav and took out some his heavy cav, danced around his dragon for a bit, trying to hopefully set up a flank charge with a couple of characters, and basically took it out of the game for most of the game, which I was fine with. And then turn 5, I set up a big charge on his Lion Guard. I had 5 units and 2 characters, maybe 3 characters. I basically had all of my army in a big semicircle pointing at his Lion Guard. Unfortunately, I didn't really position my Knights of the Realm or my Grail Knights very well, and he was able to chaff both of them with 1 unit of light cav, so they couldn't...
That's point sufficient.
Yeah, it was good work by him, and it was poor work by me to place them too close together. And thinking ahead back that I should have realized that that's what he would do, because that was the logical decision to make. So yeah, I was basically not able to join the combat with those 2 units, and they were the bigger units. They had the most ranks, and the Grails would have done most damage. And yeah, I basically made a bad decision to go ahead with the charge. I should have had enough damage output to break them. And if I'd broken them, then I was through into his backlines and I was going through his archers and things. And that's why I did it in turn 5, because I wanted to try and give myself the chance to knock on and get more points in the next 2 turns. But as it was, I didn't do enough damage. My general didn't really turn up. So the damage output was just limited. I bounced. I stuck in combat, but I didn't break them. And then his dragon came into the back of some of my units and characters. So he ended up getting a lot of points. But I held the secondary because I'd already basically set up in a way. I'd set the secure targets. I'd set mine up in a helpful position for me, and his was in a position I could get that one as well. So the secure targets was easy for me to keep, and despite the charge not working and quite a lot of my stuff dying there, I managed to get a 12-8, a loss of 8, but no worse than that. So
cool. So how did he use his dragon in that game?
Basically, he had his dragon on one side. I think he was going to use it to try and threaten my flank, but he was worried about my characters. So he hung back, I hung back, I moved around the side of him, he kept moving back and trying to keep me in the front of him. Because his base is so big, it was harder for him to maneuver than it was for me. So I basically just kept moving around. I was hoping to get a flank charge because I did it against Monroe when I played against his Ancient Dragon. And I was able to get a flank charge and a character into, I think it was rear charge and a character. But yeah, that one basically broke his dragon and ran it down. So I knew it was possible if I could get a flank charge, and I just wanted to threaten him.
Cool. So pretty happy then with the end of the game, all in all?
Yeah, I mean, it was fine. It was a bit disappointing that the charge didn't work out the way I wanted it to, but it wasn't as stacked in my favour as the Cadian Titan was. It was always going to be dependent on how the dice went, and I just didn't really have the damage output in the end. So
how did Michael get on with the mirror match?
Yes, this is quite funny. So Michael played Martin, and they were both Orcs and Goblins, and they were actually quite similar lists. And I think they just kind of agreed that they would mutually respect each other from a distance. And they kind of just sat and shot each other for a little bit, like for 6 turns, and nothing really seemed to be happening. Like the scores, the battle points they took, the victory points. So Michael took 794 and Martin took 900. So it was a 10-10 at the end. Like, I don't know what they were doing for 6 turns, but I think Martin was pretty tired. So Martin was quite happy just to sit back and throw rocks at him. And I think Michael felt that that was probably the best way to do it as well, because if he pushed it, it might not pan out. So
yeah, I mean, like you say, they are quite similar lists.
Yeah, but yeah, so that was a 10-10.
Okay. So, final game, you guys picked up 35 points. So you finished on 156 for the day. So you obviously came last, but...
Obviously.
Well, I say that because we've said several times already that was so it's not really like a shock. So, so just kind of looking back in hindsight, like, how did you guys feel like you actually played on the day? Were you fairly disappointed? Was it just really dice that fucked you in the end?
Well, I've sworn off war machines forever.
That's good.
Yeah,
I'm happy with that. A dwarf player that's no longer is going to be bringing artillery. That's
volley
nice.
Guns, Andy. Volley guns for the win.
Well, an organ gun, maybe.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe an organ gun. Maybe
Andrew, what are you playing at?
Maybe just
an organ
no,
guns.
like me and Andy really bonded this weekend over Halo of War Machines.
Yeah, they only hit once in every 5 games, so
yeah, it's true. It's fucking
forget
true.
that nonsense. Seekers, on the other hand, they hit every game, so yeah, points at the Seekers. One thing that I've learned is I need to find a way to force my opponents to engage with the Death Star unit, with the big block, with all the points, because spent far too much time not doing anything. Yep, so that's like takeaway is that don't know why War Machines do find a way to force your opponent to have to deal with the stuff you've brought rather than be able to just stay away from it.
So you're going to be running super aggressive Vanguard dwarf lists from now on?
Yeah, I'm going to deploy my Deep Watch and Horde formation from now on.
Ooh.
I don't know, I've got some thoughts on how to do that, but we'll see what the new version of the rules allows. You know, because things are changing. Whether that will be manageable, I don't know. But got a few ideas on how to make sure that unit actually gets into combat.
And what about you, Andrew? Obviously, the Knights, are they getting left at home now?
I'm just going to concentrate on my vampires because Empire suck ass.
You've just given up on the Empire.
No, I think I don't think I played particularly well in any of my games, even the one I won. I think that was more just the fact that Adam made the mistake of committing the Vermin Guard when he really shouldn't have, and that let me get those points without working for them very hard. So I don't think I played particularly well, but definitely the hamstring was that I've got a 900 point unit that should anything that really hits within reason it should be looking to kill, and it did fuck all across 5 games, and that really, really, really frustrates me. Because like you guys will know as well, like unit does work. When it works, it really works, but to have 5 games and them do nothing and 900 points, it's just, you can't have a list that's underperforming like that.
Yeah, it just cripples the rest of your army.
I think the list maybe relies on them too heavily. At the end of day 1, I thought to myself, how much better would I be doing if I just had a big fuck off block at Imperial Guard instead of them? The answer is a lot better, I think. It was good because it showed me the real weaknesses of the list, and particularly against the MSU armies. So back to the drawing board. But again, it's hard because obviously 2.0 is coming out, so I don't want to get too worked up about it. But I was very disappointed with the list and my gameplay really. But these things happen. It was a good learning experience, and I enjoyed all my games, and all my opponents were great. I think like my funniest game was probably I don't know. I actually enjoyed them all, but I think playing Mal was good fun. And that was probably the game where I moved the least because I was like, I'm not giving any points away this game. But we had a good laugh, so it was really good. Really enjoyed it, but I think I just kind of let myself down a wee bit gameplay wise.
What about you, Ed? How happy were you with your list, and would you change anything about it now that you've played it?
I probably will never play that list again for a start.
It went well then.
Yeah, it was so brittle. It was so volatile. Against Jack, I managed to show what it could do, but every other game it was relying on things happening that, I could stack the odds in my favor, but I was only ever, 2/3 likely for this to work, and when it didn't work, that was the problem that really the list kind of fell apart a bit. I think I did well to salvage points given how many times I lost almost every unit and only really had one very bad result, but yeah, it's not a list I would view as competitive. I'm also reluctant to say that questing knights didn't really work out for me. They're interesting. They put a different angle on it, and scouting 2-up armor cavalry is it's always entertaining. But I just don't think they carry themselves in any serious combat. So they're expensive for a war machine hunter and occasional flanker, which is really what they're reduced to. I think probably Pegasus Knights do that just as well, if not better.
Looking back at the tournament now, that there's been a couple of weeks to kind of think about it, like, how would you guys kind of rate the overall standard of play compared to like what you're used to in the club? Is it fairly comparable, or were there just times where you just felt totally at your depth?
Well, personally for me, I said to you guys before we started recording that the only game where I felt like I was really properly outplayed was against Tanka. And that's basically because I made a mistake and he managed to capitalise on it so much that he took the rest of the army off the field. So I don't think, speaking from someone who got his arse handed to him across 5 games, I don't think the skill level is actually a massive jump. To be fair, we didn't play against, the top teams because we weren't at top tables. But I don't think it's a massive jump. I think the biggest thing was list composition, and having answers to MSU was personally my thing.
What about you, Ed?
Obviously I've played in some fairly big tournaments. I've played against quite a lot of ETC guys just through going along tournaments in Denmark and Germany and things. I would say that the standard, my experience was the standard was a good bit higher than our average games for sure. The tournament was probably comparable, but I think our monthly meetups don't quite match up to that. I don't think it was leagues above, but I think there was definitely a sort of natural play style that they had that we didn't necessarily have. And I think that comes with experience, to be honest. I think a lot of those guys have been going to tournaments for 10 plus years, and they've just been doing it so long that a lot of that stuff is second nature. And things like chaffing and positioning MSU units and things like that, they don't change version to version. They don't change going from 8th edition to 9th edition to 9th age. So I think that showed from time to time. But I personally, I love these tournaments. I love playing different metas and I love playing different players. So I'll continue trying to go along and bring anyone with me that wants to go.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, obviously I wasn't there, but my kind of interpretation of what it would be like would be, for the most part, you are playing against people that at least have that little bit more experience with tournaments. And as you say, certainly when it comes to like list composition, I think our club is quite a new club. It's quite a young club in that sense. Like certainly that's the first time the club's really been represented at a team tournament.
How embarrassing.
Well, like certainly talking about like list composition, like and just where the tournament fell in regards to our own tournament and having the time to really think about that, and different teams are approaching the tournament from different viewpoints. I mean, I think for the most part, I think it's fair to say you guys were just going down there to have fun and just represent the club. There'll be other people there that are looking at it more like it's part of their kind of tournament calendar. So I think that's fair enough. What was the kind of atmosphere like there over the weekend? Because there was a lot of players, right? I mean, it was 18 teams, so 72 players in total.
Yeah, actually, I'd be interested to hear what you guys say in comparison to stuff like Siege and Strife. Like, Andy, what did you feel like the atmosphere was?
Certainly more competitive than either of the two tournaments, night age tournaments that we've had in Scotland so far. Which isn't necessarily bad, but it is different. I think I preferred this Stravellan Siege tournament in terms of just having a really good time, more relaxed, more casual games. I certainly enjoyed that a wee bit more. It was a bit less immersive, having you're really just concentrating on angles, on getting the right dice rolls at the right time, remembering, there's no mercy basically. Like nobody's going to kind of be like, by the way, you forgot to do that. Well, although I mean that's not entirely fair because at times opponents were very nice and give you a bit of leeway, but for the most part you're not going to get any second chances. Nobody's going to say, oh, it's okay, you can go back and change that. Not even close to it. Everybody's looking to get as many points as they can, really, because it's a team effort and you can't really be letting your teammates down by going easy on your opponent. So yeah, it's a different way of looking at it. I think the biggest thing for me at this particular tournament was getting to play against armies that I'd not played before. Saurian Ancients and Demon Legions, two armies that I hadn't played before. So that was good. I really enjoyed that, and guaranteed to play against 5 people that I'd never even met, let alone played against before. So also very good. Seeing different styles, looking at the way people build their own lists, and everybody was very friendly. So absolutely, no one there who you really kind of think, I don't want to play that guy again. Every single person I played against, I would happily play again. No doubt about it.
Yeah, I agree with
awesome. What
In fact, some of the people I played against, I really want to play again, so I could get. I'm not going to make that mistake again, So,
how would you rate the kind of atmosphere, Ed, with the kind of tournaments that you've been to in the past?
I would say it's on a fairly similar level to the more competitive tournaments I've been to. I've been to tournaments where every point matters, and I've been to tournaments where people are fairly lighthearted about it. I probably end up somewhere towards the more competitive end of the spectrum, just because I want to push myself. I would probably miss one without the other, I think, is my view, that if all I played were ultra competitive matches and tournaments, I'd miss having fun, and if all I played were fun matches, I'd miss the challenge. So I'm quite happy to go to both. That's kind of where I end up on it.
And the venue and stuff, that was all pretty good, like the tables and the terrain and all that, like that was all pretty good standard?
Yeah, I'd say so. All the terrain was really good. I didn't see any table that looked bad. So I don't know where they sourced it all, because obviously that's a load of tables that they had to set out, but I think the venue was good as well. No complaints.
Venue was fine. Terrain, I imagine they've probably built it up over years. Terrain was fine. Tables were okay. I think tables could have been slightly better.
One thing they could have changed is having a map of the scenery on the table, which they didn't have, because people were putting cups and books and stuff down, and terrain was being moved in between games, and there was no benchmark to reset it to, which was something that was definitely missing. I think got up to the tables and it's like, there's people's stuff lying all over it. Is this meant to be there? I don't know. Is it giving somebody an advantage? I don't know. Like, maybe not. But you'd rather be able to kind of reorder terrain, just make sure you're playing from an equal starting point to everybody else.
Do we use this Coke can as a piece of impassable terrain?
It's this drunk person.
Cool. So that's all good. So it was a really, I mean, am I right in saying that was the 5th Midlands team tournament that they've ran?
That was the first team one they've done. They've done singles.
That was the first one.
Yeah.
Right, okay. So it was a fairly smoothly run on tournament on the day.
Yeah, to be fair, Slatch and Nick, like, it was really well organised. They had some admin to do between the rounds, because that's a lot of scores to put in and everything.
Yeah, definitely.
So fair play to them, and they were very hospitable, and it was really, really good. And talking to, like...
So, do you guys have any kind of general concluding thoughts for future team tournaments? Any kind of advice or anything like that you would kind of pass over to anyone listening, or potentially people from your own clubs that are maybe thinking about going to a team tournament in the future?
Go to them.
Just go.
I think just get involved, have a go, see what you think. Might be you decide it's not for you. Might be you decide that you need to do some work and practice more. But I think there's no substitute for just getting to a tournament and trying it out. And either you'll love it, or you'll decide that you want to focus on the things that make the game fun for you.
Cool. What about you, Andy? Any pro tips?
Unless you've already been to several and you're confident in your own abilities, I would say look at it as a learning experience. Use it as an opportunity to play against new people with new styles, against armies that you've maybe not played against before or played against often, and hone in your own skills. Don't worry too much about the list that you're bringing. I'd say don't overthink the list. Just have something that can adapt. Make your list as adaptable as possible, because there's always going to be something that you're not prepared for. Always.
What about you, Andrew? What are you going to take away from this one?
Make your list adaptable. It's easy when you're a dwarf. That's all.
You've done so well. You've kept your
I know.
I
think it's because Andy and I bonded. It's fine. We both hate War Machines now. Yeah, no, I love tournaments. I love playing. So I thoroughly. I mean, I got my ass handed to me 4 out of 5 games, and I still enjoyed myself. I think I really enjoyed the team dynamic. I thoroughly enjoyed it at Siege. Like, if I could go back and play Siege tomorrow, I would do it. I think we had the added element as well that everyone knew each other at Siege, so it was good. There was good banter between the teams. It was a bit more relaxed. There was like a lot of trash talk going about. It was just good fun. Whereas we were going into this not really knowing anyone and kind of getting to grips with the team dynamics and stuff like that. So it was different, but like the guys say, it was a really good learning experience to play different armies, play different players. And I would echo Ed's sentiment, like, just go have a bash. But definitely the team tournament aspect for me, I really enjoyed, and I'll definitely be looking to do that more in the future.
Awesome. So that's a pretty good positive note to kind of wrap up the Midlands chat.
Paul, are you tempted to give a sort of foreign team tournament a try?
Oh, like
Foreigners.
If I could have went, if I could have went to Midlands, I would have. It's just kind of same old kind of bullshit, like real life
marriage. Is that what you say?
Yeah, real life commitments, job, and
life getting in the way of important things.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I think about this game an unhealthy amount. Like if I could have went to Midlands.
That's my boy.
No, like it really is just like kind of personal circumstances. Like, if I could get away to a tournament every couple of months, I'd do it, absolutely. But it's just a question of timing and things. And I think for me, this is why I kind of enjoy kind of being involved with setting them up. Certainly in our own club, it's just part of selfish reasons because I know I can definitely get to this tournament if I set it up.
Well, I think that there seems to be an agreement here that you definitely do the best tournaments, Paul. Of the 3 I've been to, yours are definitely the best.
Thank you for those comments. I feel obligated to point out that you've been to 2 of 3 tournaments, 2 of which have been mine, so statistically speaking, that was probably likely, so thank you anyway. No, but I think it is like what you were saying, Ed, about the mixture between the kind of more relaxed tournaments and the kind of slightly more competitive ones. I think it is good to have a mix, and we're going to have the Scottish GT in March, so that'll be good. So I'll get flavour for that kind of gaming environment next year. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, no, but just to wrap things up with that, just to say thanks very much, guys, for coming on and talking about it and reliving all your kind of horror stories. And
I had to come on. I didn't choose to come on. I felt
no, you're obligated to show up. You don't get a choice.
A big thank you to the Vale Renegades for agreeing to play his first game. So it was cool to play them. It would have been good if Andy and Craig could have come down as well, but obviously they didn't know they could go until very late on. And I think Craig is coming to the GT. I think I saw. So that'll be cool to see the guys again. And I'm actually going down to Cardiff tomorrow, so I'm hoping to see a couple of them at Firestorm when I'm moseying about.
That's exciting.
Yeah. So just before we close up, just for upcoming events, I'm under strict orders from Felix to promote the Scottish GT. So the Scottish GT is in March. The dates themselves are the 10th and 11th of March next year. All the details are on the forum if you want to check that out. There's also there's a tournament happening in Milton Keynes in December. I think it's like the 28th of December. It's the Fantasy Wargaming guys that are organising that. There's the Bristol GT, which is happening in March.
February.
There we go.
Because I signed up to it earlier, so.
Awesome. So yeah, so Ed's going to that. Ed, you've also got the finals in a couple of weeks. Is it this weekend?
This weekend, yeah. Henrik and I are both going down, so as is tradition, we'll expect to come back with my shield or on it, and more likely on it.
On it with a spoon in hand.
Yep.
So best of luck to you and Henrik. And then we'll probably look to have Strife maybe summertime, and then the Cardiff guys are organising a tournament for June, I believe, which I know there's a lot of chatter on our group that we're going to try and get a few guys down to that. And I think that's about it. And I know there's a Midlands singles event. I think it's summer next year. But as always, all the details, all these bits and pieces are on the forum. So if you are interested, go check it out. And then if you want to get in contact with us, you can do so via email at scottishwildlings@gmail.com. You can get us on Twitter at Scottish Wildlings or at Scottish Ninth Age. Or you can get us on Facebook at Scottish Wildlings, and that should come up with the group, and Ed will get you added to that if you fancy it. But again, just to echo Paul's remarks, thank you very much, Andy and Ed, for joining us. This was meant to be an hour and a half episode, which we've somehow managed to extend beyond all recognition. And yeah, so we've got a meet-up coming up next week, the 8th of December. So that'll be our final meet-up before the new year. I think, Paul, we're going to try and maybe get another episode out before Christmas.
Yeah, definitely. I think we can get one more in for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck we're going to talk about, but we'll come up with something.
We'll talk about something. And,
I guess there's all the new stuff that's getting released just now. We can talk about that if nothing else transpires.
Yeah. And then obviously 2.0 is meant to drop sometime December, so I'm sure the forum and we'll obviously be recording episodes going into the new year. But
Ed, when's that dropping, Ed? Sorry.
Yeah, Ed. Sorry, do you have a date for us?
Sorry, I can't hear you. I think the line's breaking up.
Ed, that shit don't work. But a big thank you to all the teams who played against at Midlands. And yeah, we'll catch you in the next episode, guys.
Cool.
Will do.
See you later.
Cheers, bye.
Bye-bye.